gonna call the meeting to order. Has the meeting been noticed?
Yes.
Oh, no, we do. Oh, we did do roll call first. Roll call.
Okay, Sandy, you're here. Phil is still here? Phil's here, thank you. Jenny's here, yes. Myself, Ron Schultz, looks like he is.
He's stuck in Sarasota. He said he couldn't be here.
Can't be here
He
tonight, okay. Dan, any word with Dan Muno?
Haven't heard.
Okay, so
Haven't
we
heard
haven't
a thing.
heard. John's here and Bill, you're here, so, okay. We have a quorum.
All right, we have a quorum. Let's get the pledge. Where did that one? Over there.
I'm back to
Okay. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Now we can ask, was the meeting noticed?
Yes.
All right. And, okay, we're gonna have no, everybody has read the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes from May 15th, 2024. Motion.
Second.
Second. Any questions, corrections? Vote.
Under number 10 is the community library, letter D, new business. They completed an MLIS degree. MLIF, it's a library and information science.
I couldn't pick it up on.
I know,
the-
I think it's.
Thank you, I'll make that update and I'll get it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other corrections? All in favor? Opposed? We have a list of students here. I see Commissioner Eggers is here. I don't like to eat your sandwich
You want a,
mid-bite. You have a sign in.
do you have a sign-in sheet?
I have it.
Oh, okay.
I have it, I was gonna let him.
He was me.
Good idea, Shelby.
Alright, well, we can just pass it around. We'll
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody who is here. Any, but I don't know if we have any speakers. Any
I'll get
speakers?
it. You have it.
No,
Shelby, you
not
need
to
this?
speak.
What?
Is that for speaking or just speaking?
Just attendance.
Is there anybody that needed to speak? No?
Anybody from the public, no one
No
speaking?
public?
No.
Okay, and with the agency rules procedures, we have, everyone gets to see the proposed new standing oversight committee. Kind of goes with kind of what we're doing on the backside, but this was change and clarification of what we're doing. I don't know if I'm putting it in the right spot here, but we'll deal with it. Based on the new job description for the human resource coordinator, I talked to both Mark, I talked to all the directors, talked to all of them. And they had talked about going back to the way we had it once before. One of the things that was discussed was to go back to the chairman that Andy dealing with. And we all know that kind of have had problems with that in the past. So in order to kind of make a step in between, I'm proposing this as a possibility, it's open for all discussion changes. But to have a oversight committee, that we have a standing committee that we appoint on our organizational meeting in November. We appoint one person. This year would be one person for 1 year and one person for 2, so they're alternating, 2-year term. This committee would only meet should there be a problem with the HR and the directors that needs to be addressed, that they can't address outside of that. If it's between 2 directors, the HR person may have a problem, we've had that, or it could be between the HR person and a director, or anything where they couldn't settle it with HR and the directors, they have a step. We had no process before, we complained about that. So this would be like a step in between, and this committee, like I said, would only meet when there's a problem. The 2 people that would be appointed would be from the county commission appointments. The 3rd person on that committee would be appointed per issue, and that would be from whatever entity is not involved. So if it was the 2 libraries, we'd pick someone, the 3rd person would come from one of the rec places, so that, and then we have a 3-person committee where they could bring the problem. They have to call a special meeting, because it would be board members, but it wouldn't come to this meeting. They could try to deal with it. If then it couldn't be a problem, then it could be brought to the full committee. I sent everybody a copy, it was in the packet. We can change anything, that's just kind of the way I saw being a helpful in between, so that we could have, maybe not have things explode, we might have a process. That was part of the complaint we had before, there was no process to bring it further.
Maybe a requirement that the three of them must be in attendance, so there's not a quorum of two.
Oh, that's a good idea, I like that. Okay. Oh, we must attend. Any other suggestions, deletions, changes?
I thought it was a brilliant option. We all did, I think, because that was the one thing that we were wrangling with among the board directors is to, go through a reporting process, but then you have that unique situation that may or may not ever arise, okay, that how do we deal with, who deals with it? So I applaud you for coming up with this option and then discussing it in detail with each of us to get our feedback, so thank you.
Ditto.
So,
Any other comments?
Yeah, explain to me, so how we can be on a committee together.
We can, as long as when we meet, it's
Public
public, it would be a public meeting.
Be a public meeting.
We have to, it would have to be noticed to me. But it's just like any other committee meeting, we just add them. In this way, like we did when we did the hiring, we were all on committee, some of us were in all in. Or we hired that.
Oh, we had the audit committee,
Yeah,
we had the compensation committee.
And it's just, and the committee never really meets unless it's a necessity. It's not like we're gonna be having meetings every month, it's just.
From your mouth to God's ears.
We should have it in place,
It's
should we
in
need
place,
it,
should we,
rather than scrambling as an afterthought.
and not having a formal
Not
process.
having a solution to it.
Just the only issue potentially, if there was an escalation with personal information that's being aired out in this meeting and it's a public meeting. And the only thing I would really question about that, if you're going through a lot of discussions, really, the output is public, I get that. But the discussion process and the facts and the finding and stuff like that, just interesting. I'm not sure if you wanna have that open to the public is my only concern.
It just has to be, that's
That's
the
what
nature of
comes
the
here,
meeting.
it's gonna be public.
Mhm.
It does it may be. I mean, when I did escalation, it was myself just doing fact finding. I presented that back to the board of facts. You know, which is interesting.
That is separate, that's fact finding. Fact finding
No,
does
I
not have to be at a public meeting.
So what is gonna be aired out with this committee then?
We don't know what the issue is gonna be.
No, but Bill, I was thinking back to Gene's situation, where we didn't have a meeting and that's how things got heated. And maybe if he had this committee that was standing, we could have had a special meeting and at least, aired out the concerns or how to handle the escalation of that or de-escalation of that, in lieu of, or in a situation where, my entity had an issue and we went through all of that for months on end because these meetings only happen once a month and we gotta vote on everything. If we had a standing committee, we would know how to approach.
Yeah, no, I agree with the standing committee.
Right.
I'm just playing devil's advocate with the types of stuff that come through that. So maybe it's okay the way it is.
It might be something that you determine as we go along.
Yeah, right, that's good. That's good.
I don't know what it's gonna be.
I think it's a huge step forward though, guys. I'm not fighting the step. I mean, I do agree with you, I do.
We need the notes if you wanna accept it. And create the committee.
Don't
We're all
all
making
We're all like,
I'll make
okay.
a motion to accept your recommendation to have a committee, starting in November or September, whatever it was, in the fall,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Second.
Because now it's discussion time, even though we discussed that for a moment, but it was.
I think if we don't have some sort of HR position filled, then this committee would potentially be bombarded with issues.
It really meant that the HR couldn't handle it.
If the HR couldn't handle it, if there is no HR, then the default would be this committee.
Well, just to put the board's mind at ease though, while we're in the market to fill the HR position, we have met extensively about it and we have engaged HR on call. So we do have a resource through MMA, our insurance broker, that we're paying for to fill the gaps that maybe Shelby needs, hands-on help with, that we can call 24/7, email 24/7, and all 4 directors and Shelby will have access to that. So that should give you a little ease, of mind while we're trying to fill that gap.
How's that going?
That's good, that's good.
How's that going?
We just engaged.
Yeah, I just literally DocuSigned yesterday.
But it's, for now, it's excellent to have them during the transition period, and then perhaps as a backup going forward, we don't know, okay? But at least we have them for the balance of the year, and all 4 entity directors and Shelby have access to them. And, I think it's especially helpful for Shelby at this point because she's got so much on her plate that, perhaps
It's a platter, it's not a plate. It's a platter.
Yeah, it's a very large.
But Dan, also for the good of the ones that may not have been here over the years when we've had HR gaps, we have a specialist right there that we can call anytime that can, no, am I right? We've used you in the past for our HR issues when we haven't had an HR person, correct or not? Well, I don't know if everybody knows that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
Just so we don't run past it, I believe when I read that whole thing, there is an escalation thing. If that committee can't settle it, then it comes to this floor.
Comes to
Yes,
this,
yes.
So I think there's a lot of
There are
safety
different
nets
levels,
in there.
yeah, that's why I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't know if it's brilliant or not, but it's.
Okay, all right,
It hopefully will never have to be used, that's what I'm trying to say, right? That's the better way of looking
and
at it.
that's the best thing, to have
Okay,
it
we
in
have a
place.
motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, next one.
Madam Chair, what was the vote on that? I didn't hear.
Unanimous.
Unanimous? Okay.
Okay, we have public comments, no public comments, Nancy? Alright, Jenny, treasurer's report.
Nobody's stealing any money. Trying to get Bill on the signature cards. I was messaging back and forth with Brad today, but he can't produce anything today because it's changed, the bank is closed. But they're gonna put together a DocuSign for everybody to sign, so.
And that'll get Matthew on board too, to be able to sign checks.
He should have already been.
Nope. He is still not signing, it's
Marissa and
Cause I emailed about that a long time ago.
You did, and then they said, nope, he's not. Yes, he
Alright,
is, and then they
okay.
said, no, he's not, so we're still back to him not being able to
I'm
sign.
gonna just email that one. Yeah. And then you'll have to get a new treasurer.
I know, and
So,
that's what I'm
and
gonna
it
say.
can't be the new person because they have to be off the board for a year, right?
Oh.
So it's gotta be one of you people, no pressure.
Related to the treasurer's report, this is just an FYI. I went to Suncoast Credit Union this week to see about transferring funds from our account in Cadence to a high interest CD. And lo and behold, because Suncoast only deals with businesses in Florida, okay, because Eastlake Community Library is not listed in Sunbiz as Eastlake Community Library, it's listed as FICSA because we share the federal ID number. We cannot use Suncoast Credit Union, so just an FYI, that keeps coming back once in a while and biting us, so.
Well, this being that Ms. Jenny's last meeting with us, we're sad to see you go, but Jenny, we'd like to present this plaque to you for all your service. We appreciate
It needs to be on your mantle.
And maybe just one more just in case? Okay.
We appreciate all you've
Out
done.
here.
You've had so many good
We
ideas.
can all be friends now that I'm leaving.
Yeah.
We can talk and stuff.
Like a picture on the mantle, you put it on the mantle,
Fine.
in the new house.
When's
Just if you
moving
must
day?
have
When's moving day?
August.
Oh, that's a lot.
So, yep. This is still August.
Hey,
Thank
we should
you.
make the July meeting.
I will treasure it.
No.
I'm gonna like put that on my
Oh.
pillow.
You notice she didn't even say that, right?
Yeah.
What?
I said, since you'll still be here, you can still attend the July meeting.
I'll try.
As a guest.
That sounds like,
You be guest, so.
There should be a couple of people that have applied. I've been stalking people that I like, and I know other people have been reaching out and, ignoring people's responses that I don't like, do be really bad. So hopefully people have applied. I know, Commissioner Justice said there were some applications and some potentially good people. I don't know who they are, but hopefully there'll be somebody.
Maybe coming in next month.
Yeah.
So that leaves us, as Jenny said, we need a treasurer.
You need a treasurer.
Have any volunteers?
nobody's making eye contact.
Who's going down?
You can make Ron the treasurer, he's not here.
I don't like the way you're talking.
Oh.
You're talking about Schultz.
Yeah.
The other one.
I like that.
He's not here, but he was.
If no one signs up, I mean, the way the charter is with the commissioners, it's a secretary/treasurer. It's really meant to kind of be one position.
Oh, that's volunteering.
And I'm not saying that,
Seriously?
well, I'm just saying the way it's in 114 of the charter, it's a slash there. Not that I want to do it, but if there's no one going to take it, Madam Chair, I would help do this until we find somebody. I mean, that's all I would offer at this point in time. And you can say no to it, that's fine.
It was like pulling teeth to get him to be secretary, now he wants to be treasurer too.
I've been whining so much about it, I get a
Might
chance
as
to
well
put
do
my
it.
fingerprints on it.
Or is it just me or Bill?
Well, let's,
Well,
you're
If you want it, take it.
secretary, I think we
I don't want it, I'm just saying.
Oh, no, please, but I'm just offering it, if no one
Ron's
wants
been
it.
really
It's
clear.
looking into whether or not he's a conflict of interest if I take that role in this position. And if there is, then I'll say no, if there isn't, then I'll say yes. Just do my industry, yes.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I said I'd love to do it, but there may be a conflict of interest due to my industry requirements,
What's your industry?
financial.
Financial.
Okay,
And if I just
nothing
speak,
more.
in our foundation, it wasn't a conflict of interest for us, but it was for him, so.
there was
Yeah.
somebody who was interested in being on the FICSA board and they worked for, I think, Morgan Stanley Financial, and were told they absolutely could.
I know,
Not that that is
I had to have a conversation with my compliance officer.
Yeah.
He's kind of like,
Remembering
he's kind of
that
annoying.
your position as treasurer you have no money,
Oh, that's
FICSA has no money, we have no accounts that you control. I mean, just,
It's an oversight.
keep it, it's oversight only, so. I mean, it may have, I mean, I don't know, but that's always the tickler there.
Yeah, cause you're already signing checks.
Well, why don't, Dan can do it, and if he says he can't, then Bill.
I like that idea. I'm just trying to help if no one takes it, but I prefer you doing it, to be honest with you. But the way the 114 is written though, it's got that famous slash in between the two jobs, so anyway.
So at the next meeting, I will let you guys.
Okay, we'll know for next week, that works.
Okay.
That works, we'll go.
That's
In the meantime, we'll get through it. Okay, moving on, Palm Harbor Parks and Rec, you go first. Monthly financials, you have a motion,
Move to accept.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Palm Harbor Parks and Rec Directors Report, Erica?
Does anybody have any questions? I'm not sure I have anything more exciting to add to that riveting report that I sent out. Is there anything I'm forgetting, Phil, from our advisory board
I
meeting?
don't think so.
Okay, we have a motion to accept Eric's.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All in
Their
favor?
new gaming room is pretty awesome.
We did have our grand opening last night. Thank you, Commissioner Eggers, for attending. It actually was used today for the first time by the public, and people actually showed up to use it, so we got some good community feedback about birthday parties and reserving it for parents' night out, so we're looking forward to it. It's not if you talk to Hillsborough County, they will tell you it's not a money-making venture, it's a community service more than anything else. But we're looking to see if we can recover some monies for repair and maintenance on what's gonna get broken, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good, thank you for bringing that up.
Your other huge thing, you're 4 weeks into camp,
You had to remind me, because it's not even halfway.
and you're not, crazy yet, or you?
No, it's going, every year we have new challenges. I did get a little bit of comfort from speaking to my daughter who's doing a junior nurses camp with St. Pete College, having the same exact issues with the kids that we have at our camp. So, middle schoolers drawing on the table with markers and then sassing, saying, well, it's a hand sanitizer takes the marker off, what are you worried about? I'm like, sounds like our campers. So, society has created a great generation with sassiness. So we juggle that every day, but, I am a counselor part-time and part-time. But it is going very well.
Okay.
So far, only one set of blinds have been torn down, so that's pretty good.
Which building?
The building.
Other than
Room
that,
A, yeah.
then it matters.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, all in favor?
No, thank God.
Okay, East Lake Parks and Rec, March. So we have a motion to accept the monthly financials for May. East Lake. Make a motion. Get a second. Second over there. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we need a motion to accept the director's report.
So moved.
Okay, Mark?
Just a couple of highlights, we have a couple of baseball teams that are advancing to the state tournament. Our 10U and our 12U teams, so kudos to those guys. And we have, I think I mentioned at last meeting, we have 3 of our girls soccer teams that advanced to the national tournament. They all won Florida Cup, state champions, so one is in Lake San Diego, one of the tournaments, and the other one is in, the other 2 are in Denver.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, so that's great. And the other thing is, next week we have a pre-app meeting for the concept plan we have for adding fields up to the meadows, so we'll be meeting with the county for that. That's exciting.
That's good. Also, congratulations on those. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Palm Harbor Library, monthly financials, do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Slow tonight.
I know, okay. Palm Harbor Library Director's Report, do we have a motion to accept?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Filling in for Becky.
Hi, I'm filling in for Matthew tonight. First of all, I have 2 guests here. We have 2 new, not new employees, but 2 new people in new positions, I should say. So our new marketing coordinator and our new volunteer coordinator, and I would like them to introduce themselves. Starting with Allison.
Hi, I'm Allison Van Malley. I'm the new marketing coordinator for Palm Harbor Library. I was previously in youth services, so it's new in the sense of what I'm doing, but I just go a little farther into the library. Just a little bit. But yeah, it's been exciting and fun.
Oh, welcome.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Carol Mercier, formerly the literacy director and still overseeing that program as well, but I'm now the new volunteer coordinator for Palm Harbor Library.
And then the only other big thing we have our summer fundraiser coming up in July of Summerween. It will be on July 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. Tickets are $20 for adults, $5 for children, and we're looking for help. So if anybody wants to be involved, let me know.
So for Summerween,
Yes.
you may wish to have some Halloween decorations.
Ooh, yes. Most especially if you have animatronics.
Oh, no, those are going to Parks and Rec, the good stuff's going to.
Kathy Coots and Bars.
Well, no, I was like, you
Kathy.
can bring the animatronics to me and then they will be stored with Parks and
I like
Rec.
it, I like it. We do share them, I mean, you did have our pirate ship, so.
Yes, exactly, and I do one of our other werewolves. Okay, all in favor, accept the director's report?
Aye.
Opposed? Any new or old business? Oh, well, newish business is that, we need a new air conditioner, but, we're working with the county on that.
Oh my God, we do too.
Yeah, the first big rain of the season, it was raining in the library and we were all very concerned that it was the roof, but the roof is a tip top. There's nothing wrong with the roof, it is the AC and one of our units, the drip pan was rusting, which was causing part of it, but then when they went to look, the entire bottom of the AC unit is rusted, so it will be replaced. So we're working with the county. We'll be done. Okay, you're working with that. Yeah.
Okay, we move on to East Lake Library. Do we have a motion to accept the monthly financials for May? Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we need a motion to accept the director's report. Motion. Second.
Those are your pain.
Lois?
We had our Slice of Summer concert today, was the St. Pete Sax Quartet, and we had to turn people away, it was packed. And it was a wonderful concert, and if you feed them, they will come. So, it was good, and we are starting our capital campaign committee, okay, which is made up of staff, board members, community members, to start to strategize and plan the capital campaign for the phase 2 expansion. So that will be coming up in the next month.
I want to come back for the death of a gangster.
Oh, yeah, and it's at Wentworth, so it's.
Any other, no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Lois had new business, the library closing.
Now, we had received thankfully from the county, the MSTU funds for the ceiling lights in the main areas being replaced, which will necessitate us closing down the public areas since we have the hanging fixtures that have to be removed, and they will be coming in for a whole week. Now, Monday, we will not have to be closed because they are going to be able to do the children's room and the teen room separately. So we can remain open, just those 2 areas will be closed. But once they start on Tuesday, and they said it would take 3 to 4 days, we have to close, we cannot have access to the public area. Staff will continue to work, we will be back here, we will go into COVID protocols in the sense that we will receive deliveries and courier service, all the books can be checked in, we will put them on tables and carts here, and then as soon as the project is done, we plan to reopen on Saturday. If they get done sometime on Friday, we can probably start going out there to shelve materials, which will be quite a backlog. But there was no way we could be open and have regular business going on just in the community room. So we thought the best way to do it is, and staff will work, I mean, even the part-timers, because there will still be the courier service and things to do back here. And the way, I had Fuller Electric walk through the building just to make sure that we're not gonna lose internet or electricity or phone service or anything like that. So we will have all of those necessary things to be able to continue to work in the back areas here, because it's from the front of this hallway forward that the lights will be replaced.
Okay, we need a
Motion to approve the request for closure.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank
you.
We need to do
We
this.
have, we need a motion to accept the HR assistant report from May. I believe she sent it to us in the packet.
I did.
Anything to add?
It's pretty simple, but
Anything to add?
No, it's renewal time, going through some renewals with insurance and the 990, and the directors have all been very helpful with that, just learning the process, but looking forward to that new HR coordinator and however I can help.
We have a motion, the report, motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you said that?
And
Okay,
the
thank you.
agency bid, the HR position, full-time position. We got the description, did everybody get a chance to read through it? Okay, in the packet. So, let's look at a motion to accept the HR position and then we can discuss it. A motion to accept the new HR job description. Motion. Second?
You said two different things.
Yeah.
You can accept the full-time position first and then the job description, or you're just doing the job description? Because you said both things.
Sorry about that.
Make a motion to accept the job description.
Second. Okay, discussion on the job description. Anybody have anything to add, subtract, or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we've accepted the job description as it is. Then we have to have a motion to hire.
Advertising.
Advertising, I had it on that. Motion.
Second.
Discussion. How are we gonna go about advertising?
Does everybody feel good about this?
Everybody,
Everybody over here?
We met about it. We feel very good about it, and
Yes.
Matthew apologizes for not being able to be here. He had a family emergency and he was very much a part of all of the discussions, we
Yes.
agree. We will advertise it like we advertise any position we have open in our entities. We'll do it on Indeed, we'll do it through industries that have HR professionals that, you know, like we have FRPA, the library has FIA. So we're very comfortable putting together some kind of an advertisement as soon as you approve it tomorrow. Tonight, if I'm not late.
Shelby's like,
Everybody-
can I do it when I get home?
Everybody likes it, you like it, you like it?
And there was a lot of, I have to say, there was a lot of give and take,
Absolutely.
okay? There was a lot of, good discussion, okay? Agree to disagree type of things, which I think is what winds up with this as a result. Okay, because we all have our opinions of what would work, what wouldn't work, and we've got, the HR ad hoc committee, okay, got the wonderful input from the facilitator, Ralph Reed. Yeah, he was excellent, so I think we had a lot to build on, and I think the end result is something very good. Hopefully we can find some really good viable candidates based on all of the work that's been put into this by everybody.
You're still documenting what you're gonna do outside versus inside, right? How is that gonna be documented? Your services gonna be provided outside?
The human resources coordinator is pretty much all encompassing. The NNA on call is a backup for any questions or concerns that HR or any of the entities may have to address.
But there is definitely an outline.
There's a strict outline of exactly what the duties and responsibilities are for that
I'm just
person.
pulling out what the presentation was, because again, about 50% of it was truly things we could outsource. There's 50% of it or so we're gonna keep inside based on this job.
It's probably not 50-50. We're gonna keep more in than out. The HR on call is more just a support mechanism for someone who's new to our agency that may not understand how things operate, and we can pick up the phone, or we could email, or we gap fill while we're interviewing. The outsourcing, the consulting, the things we talked about perhaps doing 50-50 was well above our budgets, well above what we could afford. I won't say the hourly rate, because then Andy will definitely raise his. So we're just gonna leave that there.
He's
He knows his work out there in the world.
So, and I think, all that we've come up with, okay, is a very robust, thoroughly investigated job description. And I think then now the next step would be the HR assistant, administrative assistant, which I think is really for this board to determine.
That's what I was gonna ask, because I would like to see this stay just HR. So
Yes.
we're not piling things on the.
No, that's exact,
Absolutely.
and that's exactly how it's worded.
So Jenny, so you know, Deborah left a document that showed everything she was doing. And that's what we extrapolated a lot of this information from.
Right.
We said, okay, no, that's fixed administrative assistant, no, this is HR. Because that's where we got cloudy and that's where we got things messy. So if you look at this job description, I don't think there's one thing about registering Sunbiz or doing the annual report, because that has nothing to do with HR.
Now we're just gonna
On
dump on
purpose.
Shelby instead.
I was gonna say, is that the plan, that,
Yeah, we'll work on that.
We don't know yet. I'm just standing by and doing what I can. So I think that the idea was to do HR separately and, develop that and understand who we want for that position and then work on whatever it is that I'm going to do. So we'll get there.
If reporting responsibilities, who's gonna write the performance review of this position?
The four of us.
Oh, okay, it's gonna be a consensus performance review, thank you for that.
And we had done that prior.
And that's how
That's-
it's
no, that's good.
that's it, yes.
I just wanted to hear that.
Right.
And
It
then
has to be a
Shelby's
collaborative
position,
effort.
But
she's
we're gonna work
doing
on
too.
that.
That's different,
We're
we
not
haven't
working on
gotten
So
there.
that's, so we haven't gotten to that.
Yeah, we wanna get this piece going, and Shelby's been involved, I don't want you guys to think that
No.
she's been in a capsule somewhere, she's been involved in all these conversations.
Yeah.
And luckily didn't walk away when her job really went away, because she's an assistant to nobody right now.
Right.
So, as an HR assistant, so she's been more than gracious to hang on until we figure it out.
So what's the other position?
We're gonna take that up.
No, what's it gonna be called? What's the
No,
other?
It's a surprise.
We wanna get this one done first. We'll get this done first.
I got it.
so I do see how clarification helps with voting this in.
It does, because is this a boss position or is this a standalone position and then the next position is
In our
standalone?
conversations in committee and amongst the four of us, this is not a boss position. The HR coordinator's not going to be that individual, whatever we name
So
that
that-
job.
Well, that's why I think it's great, okay, don't get me wrong, but I thought it would be presented as two, so we understand, because right now we're saying, we'll vote for this, we agree to the job description, we agree to put in the position together, and then all the administrative stuff is just hanging out there and it's nobody's responsibility really, but Shelby's doing it. But there's not a job description for it, there's not anything controlling it, it's just happening. It's not being specific. I thought we would say, well, yes, we're gonna do this, and we're also gonna set up this other position, so we know what we're voting for, because I would have voted for this and said, oh, so this is gonna be the boss. And our administrative person's gonna report it.
Clearly say
But
what.
I know it doesn't say it, but
In our meetings, Phil, when we discussed it in committee, and we didn't decide, and I wouldn't do that without Matthew sitting at the table, but we had all immediately spoke about making a FICSA administrative assistant,
Yeah.
a FICSA administrative coordinator, a FICSA administrative something. Because all that other stuff that Shelby's bogged down with is administrative, it's not HR.
correct, I
And
agree.
they would be working simultaneous, but not for one another, they'd be working for us.
And the name does matter, because if you call that person an HR assistant, then naturally over time, this person will think they're their boss, whether or not.
Well, absolutely.
And this
It's a
board
matter of
wants to think
semantics,
they're
you
their
have to
boss.
be very careful what
Semantics
the titles
matter.
are, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, but this has been like going through childbirth.
It looks
great,
Through-
from what I
yeah,
remember.
It looks
this has
great.
been a long, painful process, and it took way longer than what we anticipated, and that has put a tremendous burden on Shelby, on the directors, and we need to get this in place so that we can get the human resources person in place, the right person, okay? And then, if, the FICSA approves, we can, work all together, collaborate on this FICSA administrative assistant position, whatever it is, with the board's approval and with the board, wanting us to assist with this.
If you approve the reporting structure, it really is no different than if Cindy said she won the lottery and she leaves tomorrow. I wouldn't have to, if I redid her position, or that would never come here, that would be my job. So if the reporting structure is approved tonight, we can go forward in the next weeks while we're out to hire for an HR person to figure out Shelby's position with Shelby's help, please. and what we're gonna call it, and what we're gonna, how many hours we're gonna allocate it, and see what the budgets are. That would be our job at that point. It would be no different than one of my employees walking out because they win the lotto.
That's not in exec doing
You
that.
don't have.
We're gonna separate those two.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, we were just
We're sure
presenting
we're
HR.
on the same
And the
page.
reporting structure, Sandy, that's the key, because
Right, that's.
we can't go out to interview and do all that if the reporting structure doesn't change.
Correct.
I don't see the reporting.
Yeah, I don't see, I never got to see on that either.
Could I say a few words? Because I'm
You're
more
on
or
the
less
committee.
a member of the ad hoc committee, even though I didn't show up at many meetings. I think the board needs to understand that the steps they're asking you to take tonight is to reverse the decision to move HR into an independent, separate entity from the directors. And I mean, I can quote this nicely or not nicely, but this is basically a request by the directors to go back how it used to be. And HR will report to the 4 directors, and how they coordinate any differences they have in that, I don't know yet. And the notion in the report of the committee, the last one I saw, is that the administrator will also be reporting more or less to the 4 directors. And they will then control HR and the PHCSA administrative assistant position. Now, late in the process, there was some discussion that maybe the administrative person should report to the board, to the chairman, or somebody else. But as it stands right here, you need, and I don't care how you do it, but if you are willing to put everything back in the hands of the 4 directors and let them figure out how to coordinate it, which they didn't prove they could do 3 or 4 years ago, before I was here, so I have no right to speak to that, but I'm just saying, you need to be careful. And Matthew is not here tonight, has driven this bus very successfully, and at every turn, it's always been the 4 directors need to control this process. If that's what you want, then you vote for this.
Wait a minute, weren't we voting on hiring this person?
Well, and Sandy, excuse me for a second, but the last,
We're still on average.
yeah,
Still on advertising.
yeah, on the last page of the, job description, it does say something about recommendations and plans from the entity directors, and that's where the reporting structure was.
Where was it?
I believe it's on the, if you scroll all the way, well, I'm on a computer, so if you scroll all the way down at the job description, it was, where it said Palm Harbor Community Services, the ad hoc committee notes.
I don't see it.
No, see, I gave you a.
Yeah, it's on the attachment.
So entity directors will.
So, you know, to talk to what Ron just said, and Lois, you've been here a few more years than me, but I've been sitting here as a director the longest out of the 4. I don't know that it would be accurate to say Matthew's driven the bus. I feel like Lois was in the passenger seat right next to him, and I was sitting behind them poking him in the back. Hey, guys, listen up. I think it was definitely an effort from all of us. I don't know that Matthew was the one driving. I believe that position should have reported to us all along. And I think we derailed the train when that changed. And that's just my opinion, and I've seen it done both ways, because Phil, you were probably on this board when Mary Mason reported to the directors, and it got changed once then it went back to the directors, then it went to the PHCSA board. So I just think because, and poor Mark has to sit through all this with no employees and very minimal HR, and he sits there going, whatever, I believe in you guys. And I appreciate that he listens to all of it, because I probably would have fallen asleep midway through the 3rd meeting. But I hope you guys have enough trust in us to know that we're more than capable and more than able to do this and willing, and we think, collaboratively, I think I speak for all of us, this is the best decision for our agency at this point in the road. And hopefully you support that.
Okay, I'm still looking for it, Erica, where did you say it was?
It's on the same attachment, it's on page 4 of the job description. It's the very last page.
I stopped at the same.
Two,
Sorry. I
well,
stopped.
another
Which
comment.
was the.
And I did as well, and I didn't see it, I'm like, I
Committee
know it said something, yeah, the committee notes, it said the
It's
ad
the
hoc
committee notes, not in the job description.
And nor would it be in the job description,
One-
that wouldn't be appropriate for the job
Let me
description.
add on to what was said here and what you're saying in my, I think y'all have done a great job with it, by the way, and all the stuff that's come back that I've read, because I've been very told y'all that HR is not my my background, I don't know, I don't use that much, I don't have, because of the company setup that I'm in, but everything I read, everything I've gone back to and looked at is that the HR department reports to the CEO. The CEO doesn't report to the HR person. We have 4 CEOs, we have 4 directors. Each of them needs, in a manner, each one of them needs their own HR director, so to speak. But because of the way we're set up, we don't do it that way. So I don't have a problem with them. In fact, I think they should be in charge of the HR department, in my opinion. Whether they've run it good in the past or not, or communicated well in the past, I think with an outline of duties and specific things, and with a better understanding as to what background checks have to be made and what criteria has to be met, and we all keep that in the forefront, I don't see the issues coming up that we've had in the past. And I think the issues that we've had in the past, and this is just my 2 cents, has brought us to this point that has educated us and has put the 4 of you and the missing person more in the spotlight and puts more pressure on you to be responsible and to make sure that it does work and it does not come back to the standing committee and become a problem. So it puts more pressure on you to make it work if we voted in, and I agree with it. My only thing is I get caught up in the administrative part in this because I think that's what was part of what caused a lot of confusion is the responsibilities. I wish we had both job descriptions sitting in front of us that we could just vote on both of them, but we don't. So I think the structure is being corrected. I think it's being put in the right way now.
Another thought I'm thinking is if we had the HR, just the way we have it, let's complete it. But I'm thinking possibly it would be good if what's the title again, office coordinator?
Potentially.
Administrator, whatever I think having that person report to the board would be a balance.
And that would make sense
Because that way we
based
have,
upon
they
the way
would
we're
be,
moving now
there
towards
wouldn't be
the
one of them
administrative
feeling like they
position.
work for the other, they'd be equal in your respective jobs.
Well, and
Whatever
whatever
the
this job
stuff
is person,
And a lot of the administrative stuff comes from us.
yes, exactly.
And that's when this came out, this was, before we had finalized all of the job descriptions and such. And we focused first on the HR coordinator, and I agree with you. At this point, okay, it is the 4 directors that work intimately with HR. We need HR. They work collaboratively with us. We know them, we work with them, so it only makes sense that we would be the ones that would be working with them, okay, as a reporting relationship. But in the event that the situation comes up as has happened in the past that created a problem, you've addressed that with the ad hoc committee. So now we have something in place that we didn't have the last time. So I think that makes sense. The other part with if fix the administrative assistant, okay, it makes sense also in that respect that if it is an administrative job, maybe as a backup, maybe helping HR from time to time, but that is more focused on the fixer board and the fixer responsibilities, so yes, okay, that makes sense to report to the fixer board. So I would, backtrack on what my initial thought was when we had the initial discussions.
There's been this kind of scope creep for the positions on
Yes.
the board. And that's kind of my fear is we get excited about, ooh, well, I wanna be a part of this decision, but it's not our place. And you guys are the directors of your own organization and certainly should be able to manage something like this.
Cindy, I agree with where you guys are at. I'm very proud of your decision-making process and how you got to where you got to. Because I was really passionate trying to keep the job out from a review standpoint. The only thing I would really caution everybody on, if Shelby reports it to the board, it would be nice to have her report into one person, because otherwise you're gonna have 8 people doing reviews, they're gonna be all in a public forum again, and it's gonna really be down the slippery slope. Because again, and that's exactly how we ended up getting into some issues in the past.
And that's what we talked about with the HR
Yes.
position
So-
was,
Yes.
we're gonna have one individual and we'll rotate every year, so that HR person reports to one of us, and then we share the information amongst us.
I love it, I really love it.
Because it's too hard.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If the other position reports into the board though, we just have to be a little careful with how that, who writes the review process, because again, it's gonna be all in this public forum. And that is just uncomfortable as all get out if there's any corrective action that can happen, guys. And so that's the only thing I really encourage us, is think that one through. It's not my decision, all I can do is, give you the seeds and say, well, I think you're gonna go down that slippery slope again, it's no different than Deborah sitting across from us.
I think we hope to have the HR person's help with that.
And one thing to remember that Ron said, we're going backwards, but we're not. We're not. I'm loving what I'm hearing, but we also have safeguards. We have the safeguard with the extra committee, right? We have the safeguard of separation of duties. I think we're moving in the right direction with this finally, and I'm 100% for it. I'm looking forward to it because you guys have passionately said numerous times, Mark, I understand you have it, and we're gonna pick on you about it, but hey, I think you should
But
be,
he was an
you
integral
should
part,
be
because
the
at some point
individual
he's
who
gonna have
oversees
a
the
staff.
HR person, because you have nothing else to gain. You have no other employees, but that's just me. But anyways, all joking aside, I think it's the right thing to do, and you guys need the HR support, because you're the ones doing the advertising, you're the ones doing the hiring, you're the ones doing the firing. They're the ones that are actually assisting you, so I think the structure now is finally in that right spot. And I absolutely applaud you guys for getting together and this looks great.
So can we move on with this?
Let me ask you a question, if that's the board's opinion, you've already decided on the job description, and they've told you how they're gonna advertise for the positions, since they're doing it. Why wouldn't you just direct them to do the advertising and the hiring?
Well, that's what, was my next thing, because we still can put the other position on, we don't have to decide them both tonight.
Correct.
We can decide on this one so they can advertise and start getting someone in. And then we can have a further discussion on the next one at our next meeting, or meeting after, but we need to fill the position, and everybody feels they need to.
And it'll probably take more than a month to.
Oh,
It
yeah.
probably will,
Oh, yeah.
that's what we're saying.
find the
So if
right
we can get-
Okay, so alright, so maybe this is gonna, money. What's the, is the,
It's on the top, so you're
24 to
talking-
30.
no, that one's on the top, but a business manager,
Yeah, you're still,
I-
you're
Oh, no,
moving off the
I'm
subject.
caught up in the money though, when it's at the bottom line,
But
is
that's
that
not
other
in
position
front
to
of
be
you yet.
That's
full-time
not-
or
we're not
part-time?
there.
It's
No,
not,
discussing
you
That's the next
this
position.
is how we end up
haven't
with
discussed it
these
yet.
long conversations.
Okay,
This is
fine.
So in the hiring,
I know what you're,
oh, go ahead,
I do know what you're saying, but we don't wanna top out from what we were before.
We may want to consider revising the HR description that we just approved to include the hierarchy it used to be. Because otherwise you have a job description without any reporting explicit.
In the description, not in the notes.
So if we want to have this, then let's codify it and say that this HR manager reports to the full directors. Then they hire however they please at this point. They advertise and hire.
Right.
Really concerned I am
So
about
Andy,
that.
can the motion be amended to say that that's,
Amended.
amended and put it in the motion that that's the reporting structure, and then we'll just redo the job
Yes.
description and move it up into the description.
Absolutely. So I
So I don't know if we
make
make
a
a motion,
motion
Alan.
that we amend the job description for the HR
I will.
to have
He's a
the reporting duties go directly to the full
originally had
directors.
in here, and we took it out because we didn't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
Did we-
react to that.
I remember.
You already approved the job
We
description.
did
vote on it? Okay.
Yes, you
we
did.
but we have to, we're gonna amend it.
Well, we approved the job description, but we also had, didn't we have a,
We did not approve
we didn't
the
have a
other-
vote
We have
out
the
yet?
advertising still.
Okay, I thought we were in the discussion phase of the vote.
But we're still in the discussion, advertising.
We'll have to close this.
So I thought we were making a motion
No, I
on the
mean-
motion.
You made a motion, if there's a second, then we can deal with that issue, because it'll resolve the second two issues.
Okay,
Second,
Yeah.
okay. Second.
The
All
only
in,
discussion we're gonna have on that is if we do this, the HR director reports to them. We're gonna have to ask the board director for permission to use that person as a resource for our utility. In particular, when we're doing reviews of the board directors, we can't just have that HR person help us with that without getting approval from them. So there's a bit of a conflict.
Well, there's one thing that you said that is in this, like, you don't need their approval, you direct them to do that. Because they answer the
That's right, 'cause
recommendation.
you're right,
Right.
this is-
If we direct that HR person
Right.
to help us with this review, their efficacy might be limited due to the conflict of interest that they have by being a direct report of the four that we are reviewing.
That's
So
like
their opinion and their fact finding, whatever they do, their opinion of these directors is gonna be just like any other fixed employee. And so we're not gonna have that higher standard of a profession.
That
Here's where
happens in
it burns
every
to be
industry
honest.
of your top level executives. There's always people reviewing each other that are at that same level, so it's.
And honestly, because of the weird nature of the setup, everybody works for FICSA.
Says it on our paychecks, so.
Everybody works for
But
FICSA.
when we were going through all this, I reached out to HR at the county. And the way the county does it with the commission, which you guys essentially are the commission and we're the department directors, is all HR does is compile the information gathered by either, the peers, if we do a peer review, or so they're not writing the review on the department directors. All they're doing is compiling it. They're a collector of the data and then they provide it to the commission. Would that be accurate, sir?
Correct. Do we need to put that in the job description then, as an additional duty that the HR director position would have
I
to?
think it mentions reviews in here.
I would put,
Does it say
I didn't see anything about
in other duties as directed by the FICSA board?
It's
no.
That I think we should add that.
The duties assigned, let's see, by the administrative coordinator. No, it doesn't say fix it directly.
Yeah, so I like that idea, so I'd like to amend my motion to include as and other activities or other jobs as issued by the FICSA board. So that gives us the ability to take one of the employees underneath the directors and say, can you do this for us?
But it does say perform other duties as assigned.
It does, and I was
Assigned by
thinking-
whom?
but we wanted to make sure it's signed by,
Signed
by
by-
the FICSA board.
Other
So,
tasks
yeah.
and.
The secondary
Directors to the directors, yeah.
By the board, yeah.
So would this just pertain to the review process or then any
Anything.
process?
Could be anything,
See,
do anything.
then we're gonna go down that same route.
Yeah, I don't understand that because any other, I get what you're saying, Dan, but to Andrew's point, we work for you. So if you called Lois or you called me and you said, hey, I need Susie Smith, your HR coordinator, to do X, Y, Z, let her know to do that. We report to you. We have to do what you tell us. So by doing what you're saying, to Mark's point, we gotta do that to all, so now all of our job descriptions should say the FICSA board can come in and tell our staff what to do.
You only have X positions that are gonna deal with the board directly or any direction from the board. The four directors, this position, Shelby's position, Ron, that's it. There's nothing wrong with putting it this way.
My concern is that if we give a HR person, hey, do this for us, they'll say, that's not, I don't answer to you, I answer these four directors. And by putting it in the job description, the whole point of it is for the HR director.
But again, I think you're missing the point. You tell the directors to make it happen and they do it. We have no control over that person, but we do over the directors. And that's where the direction is coming from those directors.
And you're right, but the job description is other duties, right, that the FICSA board assigns them to. How you do it is you go through the four directors.
Correct.
But it's just saying this is also, I'm looking, what am I gonna do in this job? It's a job.
Right, but I also look at what Mark's saying, we're kind of going down that rabbit hole.
No, because you can't,
But the
you can't,
assignments.
you're right, it has to go the way you said it. It's no different than
Yeah.
the fire department where the board just directs the fire chief. Other people do things directly for the board, but it goes through the fire chief.
Right.
We have four fire chiefs.
Well, and honestly, I've never seen an employee, sorry, Bill,
Go ahead.
where you guys have come into my entity and you'd say to the front desk guy, Bob, a part-time guy, hey, Bob, I need you to make well, I don't work for you, I work for Cindy, I'm not doing copies for you. I've never seen a FICSA employee respond to any board member in my 21 years like that.
As a FICSA member, we're not gonna be giving out individual direction, we're
Well,
gonna
to
give it
you.
out in
Right,
this
you
meeting, guys.
can't, you
I'm
can't
not
do
gonna,
that.
that's
No,
why,
we
that's why
don't.
you can't.
It's gotta happen here, so.
Right.
So it should
And
show
the
up.
tasks and duties assigned by the FICSA board to this HR person, we assume would be HR related. Okay, what happened was last time it got into other areas that were unrelated to
If
HR.
Mark's uncomfortable, it can be, we can add the term through the directors.
Yeah.
They will do
I would
other
be more
duties
comfortable
as
with that.
assigned by the
Yeah.
FICSA board through the four directors.
Okay.
So they know what they're getting into.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, really, that's just driving us.
Change
So I amend my
motion.
motion.
For the third time.
When we talked about them facilitating with HR, they should do it the way HR is supposed to do it. They're not actually gonna be conducting reviews of people. But they could be crafting the process and compiling the information, and so there's no reason they couldn't do that for people.
Which they would do for any
Yes.
job
It's just common
description
sense.
within the FICSA organization. Whether
They
it's
can't
a
figure that
director,
out.
or it's a librarian too,
Yeah.
or it's a library assistant, or a circulation clerk, it doesn't matter. It's part of HR.
So to reiterate, my motion is amended to say that the HR position job description indicates who they report to, which is the board of directors.
Somebody had
And also
for that, it was like,
has to
one of the,
be willing to perform the duties assigned by the FICSA board.
I'll second.
You can't, I already did.
Oh, sorry.
I agreed to your.
Dang.
Okay.
Never wrote it down.
Okay.
No kidding. No
Thank God
kidding.
you got it. Got it. Okay, so. We are voting on the amendment to the job description. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We did it.
Could I-
Congratulations.
I have one more point.
kudos to you.
Hold on.
Okay, back in the.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was great.
In the education requirements, it calls for at least a bachelor's degree. And I think you should add a thing that says or equivalent experience, which is what I see in practically every resume I look at.
It was in there, and I want to take it out, only because my fear is that it's very subjective. And how do you evaluate life experience?
This is what you all came up with, this.
This is.
Right, if it doesn't work out.
Well,
then
amend the
come
job
back and
description,
say-
then we'll amend it.
Yeah,
Right,
find it.
exactly.
I want to start here before I start chipping away.
Right,
I
that's
find
fine.
some of the master's degrees, they're everywhere.
That hurts.
You turn around without seeing somebody with a master's.
Oh, I should
Everybody's
go
in
find
PhD
the
programs.
PhDs, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now our advertising, I don't know where we were on this.
Advertising went away and hiring process went away.
Right, because everything's in
Okay, yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so we finished, so you're all gonna advertise.
We're gonna post it tomorrow.
Moving to the director's review process, okay. We had talked about it at our, this is what we had talked about at our workshop.
We have the motion in.
We did.
It actually died based on what you just did.
Yeah.
I'm following, okay, so we had a workshop and I kind of tried to summarize the stuff we thought we needed to vote on from the workshop. On the director review process, we talked about annual review of director salary ranges with COLA adjustments. We done that we were gonna review that annually on the salary ranges.
I thought we were just adding the COLA onto the bottom end and the top end.
Well, we did it, we couldn't vote on it.
No, I understand that, but I just wanna make sure
Yeah,
it's
that's
clear
what-
that we're not going out
Yeah.
to have it evaluated, we're just adding that on. So I'll make the motion that we add the bottom end and top end COLA raises on the annual salaries.
It's already done.
Is it?
Yeah, it was.
It was discussed at the workshop,
At the
we didn't
workshop.
vote on it.
Yeah, but you can't take action as a workshop.
Right, we can't take action.
2 years ago, we agreed that.
We agreed to it last
But-
time, and I.
It's just for
So we just
Clarifying.
Okay, so all right.
So you're good.
So we're good,
Then I
okay.
remove my motion.
Well, you didn't get a second anyway.
Exactly,
That's why I
Ty.
died.
And
See how y'all are.
Updated form for reviews by the advisory committees, and I believe Bill had sent out some.
Yeah, Shelby asked me to update some forms, I updated the forms and gave them back to Shelby, so I think you sent everything that was updated, yeah.
So does that mean they've gone to the advisory committee?
No, they came to us and there was
No,
a
they just
number of them,
came,
so
they came back here, just,
we
with
talked
the
about.
updates, that's all, and we can decide what to do with them.
Right, and we got to the point that we were gonna bring them to,
Right.
we talked about it at the workshop, you were gonna, workshop, you were directed to come up with a new form. It was sent to us, so now we need to look at that.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the form that was sent in the packet from Bill as the new advisory board evaluation form. Starting immediately.
Second, any discussion on those forms?
Is that the numerical one or the?
Let's clarify which one, we got so many, I was confused too.
The PHCSA Director's Eval Fillable updated 5/23/2024 R2 11, thank you.
Wow,
Okay.
you're pretty specific.
Hey, it needs to be perfect.
Good job, yes. Okay. Any discussion?
It's not totally different than what we've been using, it's just an improvement, it adds some
Yeah.
qualifiers that are, I find more interesting.
Center, the main body section is the same, I didn't change that, all I did is put the front end, what is general, any continuous improvement things, and if we have any customer feedback, we add that to the front end of the process. And at the back end of the process, if there's any continuous improvement opportunities going forward, we'll always promise to do this, and this, and you only achieve 3 out of the 5, and then so there may be an opportunity for improvement going forward. So that's the only changes to it.
There's some scale changes to it.
What?
Did you change the scale on a couple of?
No, the scale is the same, the scale is 1 through 5, the scale, well, let me rephrase that. Instead of doing an average, this average score, the way it was passed, everything was equally weighted and you just totaled up the score and here you go. I left it up to whoever's doing the review, because you may put more weight on lower capital campaign. And so if you're putting more weight there, then the overall performance may slide down slightly because there's more weight there. And that's fine with the advisory boards, they should be, everything should be equally weighted. And that was the change, thank you for that one, yeah.
How do the directors feel about?
It's a step in the right direction.
We can change it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how the advisory board people feel that are going to be presenting these to work with them.
Now, Bill, just to clarify, what was the numerical one, the 1 to 10? What was that one for?
1 through 10?
You had a
That
numerical
was the 360 review, right?
feedback request for leadership
There
behaviors?
was last section, there was 360 review, if you wanted to do peer review, and if you wanted to do your employees evaluating you. And so
Okay.
that's a standard form of work.
The 1 to 10 is really like senior management?
Right, it could be senior
Evaluating.
management, it could be the advisory board evaluating you,
Okay.
whatever. And so that was really meant to be, and that was SHRM scale, so I didn't do it, I just grabbed it from SHRM because that information was valid.
I think that's what was confusing me, I didn't know
Right.
which
And
one
then
was
the
which.
other one we discussed last time with Dan, I think you brought it up, whatever, does a fixer board evaluate something? And so what I did is I brought it down to kind of a one pager, and what could we evaluate from a fixer board? If Lois gives a 20-minute presentation of what she did last year, I can evaluate her on that presentation. I can evaluate her on the interactions that are happening within these meetings, but I can't evaluate her on how many books she's putting in the library, whatever it is, because I'm not in that part of the business. And so I broke out just the things that we potentially could evaluate on that mini form versus trying to do all the items on there because it's unfair. I couldn't evaluate you guys. I could evaluate Matthew hopefully, but I couldn't evaluate all you guys on what you know. That's what that process is.
As a tool to utilize
As a tool,
for
now-
the decision making, but not as a form that needs to go out
Correct.
to all the directors.
Correct,
for
correct. That was
reviews.
just meant to be food for thought, and if it's something that we want to consider, maybe the following year we consider it when we get the new HR person. We can tweak that maybe, but it gives us a discussion point anyways. But I would recommend though that going into that November-ish session though, the directors come in, they do that 15-minute presentation, what they did last year, what did you achieve? And really
Mine won't
do-
be 15, it'll be about 5.
Well,
It's been a slow year.
But I think that's important to try to get similar to what you do with the commission right now. You go to the commission, you ask for a budget, and you put your best spin on everything. And again, if we're not taking advantage of that, or if you wanted to change it slightly for the fixer board, that's our role as chairman of the board. You're the directors, guys, you're running your entities. You've got 15 to 20 minutes to show all the wonderful things you did.
Okay, we have a motion on accepting the updated form for review by the advisory committee, so we kind of drifted from that.
Well, it was more discussion about the rest of the pieces, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, so is any more discussion on this form that we had a motion and a second? Okay, all in favor of the new form to be used by the advisory committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, next we had a form for self-review, I don't know if we have a form for self-review.
I think that's what we were just talking about.
The self form was gonna be the same.
I'd like to make a motion that we require the board of directors to do a self-evaluation this year.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll discuss.
On the same form on the same form?
Well, we have to come up.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify for me, okay?
The thought process from my point of view would have been the same form. We're evaluating them, they would evaluate themselves with that same form. And we're gonna scale it the same.
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
like just considered a handshake.
Yeah,
And then
use the
so
same
you
normal
change it
handshake.
this year, we'll change it next year.
Right.
That's what the thought process was. I mean, it just
I'm
gives
good
us a
with that.
starting point.
Okay, is there a motion to accept this?
Motion was to require the board of directors to do a self-evaluation.
Can we amend that to say, you know, in one, they,
We can,
so the attorneys will review form?
the maker wants to amend.
No? Okay, we'll do it separate. All in favor of requiring the board directors to do a self-review, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now we need the form.
I'll make a motion to use the same form.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think that the form is the form for like Mark, it's not gonna be as useful, but I could just see there being blanks and the numbers get skewed. I have no problem allowing them to do their own evaluation how they see fit, although I do like the idea to compare what the advisory board says to what they're saying. So, I mean, I'm not against it, I just don't know.
Right, well, we wanna do apples to apples, and we wanna have the same form being used, so that's
The same blanks
Same
Mark's
thing.
gonna have would be the same blanks as advisory board's gonna have. So
Right,
they
right,
should-
exactly.
They should,
And some of the negative feedback historically has been that it wasn't as streamlined, it wasn't as uniform. So as uniform as we can make it.
I mean, the thing is, we're 4 different entities, 4 different organizations, and what we do and how we do things, the process and procedures and such. So obviously, no form is gonna be perfect for all 4, and that's why you're gonna have those gaps where it's not applicable.
Each form, there's a commentary section that we all can share with, at the end of each section. So if I got
Right.
blanks, I can.
It makes the most sense for the director to self-evaluate themselves on the same form that the advisory board is gonna use.
And really, there's only 80% of the form is all the same. It's only section 8 and 9 that
That
are,
are relevant
8 is
to the
specific to library,
type. Right.
9 is specific to Parks and Rec, so
Exactly.
Mark and Erica will have 9, Lois and Matthew will have 8.
Mhm.
No difference. Same number of questions.
Okay, all in favor of accepting this same form for the directors to review themselves as the advisory committees, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, the next thing is a review form by the board members. Are we going down that route or no?
Please no.
I make a motion that we have a review by each of the directors. That can be, I make a motion that we require each of the fixed board members to review each of the board directors.
I'll
Second that.
So you're, for you, you're already you're the liaison for the board. So you've already reviewed Lois through the advisory board. So you're gonna review her individually?
Yes.
Why? Makes no sense. If I would think it would be the 4 appointed directors versus the entity director, the entity members.
A couple of reasons why I think this is extremely important, were brought up at that meeting. My take is, it's important that we all separate this. Also, there's additional questions I think we should be asking that have to do with how they present to the Board of County Commissioners, how they interact in these meetings. And so the advisory board members, while they sometimes come here, most of the time they do not, So they won't know how Lois participates in these meetings, and I'm not asked that in that director review meeting.
But you are at every meeting.
And I am 1/10 of the voice, and my opinion is buried. I mean, think of it this way, the last two advisory board recommendations for Lois, I voted against. So, yet they still went through. In that meeting we had, James Cuomo, the chairman of the advisory board, openly said, do not trust what I am putting forward. Directly from his word. Ron Walker made it clear, we should not be putting blind faith in these advisory boards to give us all the data we need. Ron Schultz said, I would rather have more data. So what I thought, I came up with 7 or 8 questions, 6 of which are already being asked by the advisory boards. Wouldn't it be good for us to do the same thing, anonymously or not, rolled up, Ron or anyone that's not in it can collect the data, and then it's just one more review.
You can't do it anonymously.
Right, you can't do it anonymously.
Why not?
Because it's public meeting, it has to be open. We know who signs the advisory boards, right? So all reviews are signed, so ours would have to have our name on it.
Also, then you have the problem of all the reviews. So if each director is producing 4 additional reviews, you've got a really big stack of reviews to look over.
We have 4 reviews additional to look over. All of our opinions get rolled up into one, just like the.
That's what happens in the meeting. So what we talked about was maybe having just a special meeting to discuss
Right.
all of that instead of producing, everybody does another review.
And I thought you had already put that on the calendar for November, right? For the week before our regular November meeting, we have this meeting to make sure everything is concise, so when we go to vote on it, we're done.
Right, and so when we go to vote on it, I want to be able to hear each of your opinions, in addition to their own opinion, in addition to their advisory board's opinion. Because we're the ultimate people that make this decision. So we hear what the advisory board say, we hear what they say, and then we hear what we say. And if there's a difference between any of these, it brings up the discussion point. If they're all saying the same thing, so be it. It's not a lot of extra work. It's clicking 8 questions, rating it, just like the advisory board do, rolled up into one, here's the fixable.
During that meeting?
No, in advance. So then we have, just like the advisory boards do.
But in
their own-
advance, you have every director doing that for each of the 4 entities, and then you're compiling all of those answers in advance. It's adding another layer.
Exactly, but the advisory boards, we get their review in advance. That could take them.
Not always.
Well, that's a different discussion, but we get that, we get a consolidated review from the advisory board. I'm not reading 10 reviews, I'm reading 1. I'm reading 2, because they got 1, and I'm reading 3. Our consolidated review of them. It's very simple, it takes no time. There's technology to do it, and I just don't see why we don't want that data.
Do we have to consolidate them? Because the path I was on is that, you've got a reduced form. I could check it real time when Lois finishes her presentation, I can evaluate it in real time. If it's required for me to do it, I'm just gonna do the form. I'm gonna turn it in we're gonna collect them all, and that becomes part of the form based on the performance. We're still gonna evaluate her overall performance, are we agreeing with what the what the advisory board said, et cetera. So we're validating that process. If there's more than a standard deviation, or if there's a gap there, we will vet that, we'll discuss that, what did you see versus what I saw. I think that's but you could do it real time during that meeting, and I think that could happen relatively quick. And then we just vote it up, do we agree with a 4.7 for Lois? Yes or no, did the majority say yes? And if we kind of agree what the advisory boards are doing, unless there's something so obvious that we're seeing different in this meeting, or we gave her 3 goals to do and she didn't achieve them. I mean, I think that, if you look at that mini form I did, that's what it was meant to be real time. And I like what you said, kind of before the commissioner appointees actually were gonna do the review, because I already did the review on the advisory board.
Right.
And so you get 4 additional inputs, then we just talk, okay, I agree with the overall process.
Can I ask a question? Is this mini review, this 4-page one with 1 to 10?
That's,
360.
I think that's a 360.
That was
I think
It
there's
should be
another-
360
Which wasn't gonna be part of the review process, that was meant to be just kind of check in.
That's a 360. There is another one that was just a one pager. Did you send that one out, Shelby? or-
I don't think it was in the packet. It may have been sent out separate with Shelby, but I don't think it was in the packet you sent out.
Okay, if it wasn't in the packet, Dan, I would happy to send it to you, and maybe if you send it out to everybody,
Here's the
could you review the
director
workshop on that?
Yeah,
Because I was just trying to develop something around what you said at the workshop. It makes sense to me, but we don't wanna make it so cumbersome that we actually had 3 other meetings to discuss what, you know what I'm saying, it's just, that's what.
well, the reason why I wanted to do it is for consistency, using the same wording, same question. And if we see a difference between what the advisory board is saying and what we as a FICSA board see, I think that's worthy of discussion. We have that in advance. We
So you
can
wanna
still have
structure the
this discussion.
conversation and the process of that meeting.
I want that meeting to be, okay, here are the reviews, we've all had a chance to review them, we've all had a chance to give our opinion of each of the board directors, so that we don't have to spend that time during that meeting saying, this is what I see. It's like, oh, okay, let's see if there's a difference. If there isn't, it's a quick meeting potentially. But if there's any differences, then we can have that conversation. But there's certain questions that I think are important for us as FICSA members to give that have a perspective that no one else does. And that is what happens at these meetings. How did they do well in front of the Board of County Commissioners? And we can watch those videos as homework and then answer that question, right? Because unless we're attending those. And then there's a couple of other questions that the advisory boards do is, are they communicating well with FICSA? How do the advisory boards know that over here? But we do. I don't see it as a burden, I just see it as an extra question, an extra piece of information that this board could use. And I don't see any reason to have resistance to extra data.
Gathering the extra data is.
As long as we didn't have to compile it, we're just doing it individually, just.
That's all it is.
It's part of the process, that may be.
It's the same way we do advisory boards, we just all individually do it once, send it in, it gets compiled.
If you make it as a requirement and somebody hasn't compiled their part, they're not showing up to that meeting, and then you don't have your quorum to do people's reviews.
Well, the other thing too, and no offense intended, but, you know, Bill, what would you know about what Mark does to review
I
him?
couldn't review them.
Well,
That's
Well,
not my
here-
point, the point of this limited questions,
yeah.
what is happening at these meetings?
That's all I
Is
could do.
Erica speaking out of turn all the time? Is she interrupting, you know? That should be.
That's not better, Dan.
I know, but I wanna be able to say that so that this board can then say, is that important to us? Because if it's not, then so be it. But it's a very limited scope. And how did you guys do at the county commission meetings? That's not a discussion I've had in my advisory board.
But those are things that you could bring up at your advisory board at any time, and those are points that you could bring up at that meeting, whether or not it's on a form. You could say, these are the things that were important to me that I noticed, because they may not be important to anybody else. And I would just caution adding extra layers of work product. If there's something smaller and more streamlined to work with, then the board can go through each of the reviews and say, do we agree with this, do we not, and add things in, but I think we're just adding all these extra layers.
It's one layer, it's 7 questions, it's not a lot of work. Any resistance to answering 7 questions is veiled lack of accountability or just laziness. Like, this is our only job as a board, is to review these people. We've taken out if we take out the financial part, the only other half is to see how they are doing. We should be doing everything again, that's our main purpose.
Can we do it? We can't.
No.
Everything will become public record, and then we
I have to sign on everything.
You can't compile it all. That's not because of the way we have to meet. That, so we have to have them, if we're going to do something like that, we have to have them all visible.
And if we use the same format, it should be easy to then.
Well,
If it's a simple format, I
How
agree.
about, is it kind of a cost, what would it be like if we had a form, we just fill it out ourselves and bring it to the meeting and kind of form our discussion around it?
That's what I would hope to do, and then.
So this way we all have looked at the same items. But since we have to do it in public and anything we write is gonna be public anyway, if we come up with the form each of the directors, each of the board members will do one for each director. We bring it to our meeting and we use this as a guide to running that meeting. That way we can discuss.
I think,
And
you
we
know,
agree.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no.
You know, my opinion keeps changing with things, but I think it's good because it's the more information that comes in, it allows us to reevaluate things. And in any organization, the boss does the review of the subordinate, of the senior managers. You are our bosses, and it's true, the more I think about it, is that from that perspective, okay, even though many of you may not see what I do day to day, or see what Erica does, or Matthew does, or Mark does day to day, okay, you have a perspective of us from your interactions with us at meetings, at FICSA meetings, at committee meetings, at county presentations. So I think there should be that input at that level. You are our bosses. I mean, what organization doesn't have their bosses write the review of their senior management, of their direct reports? So, you know, it should be, you know, a simplified one, a different perspective, different types of questions, not, you know, how are you doing interacting with your staff? You don't know. But there are questions that are relevant and should be considered in terms of, you know, how we act at these meetings, you know, what kind of information, you know, how can we answer questions and so on. But I think it's important, I really do, because you're determining our salaries, you're determining our salary ranges, you're determining, you know, if you keep us, okay, or let us go, or demote us, okay? So, I mean, one thing I've always learned is you gotta have a paper trail, okay? And we have no paper trail from our bosses, it's interesting. It's from an advisory board, and the key word there is advisory.
With no accountability.
With no accountability.
No
I
sunshine.
certainly can send you the form that I did, if you can add your questions or whatever, maybe we can talk at next meeting.
Yeah, maybe we
Well,
can-
yeah, we have time, but I'm saying, like, I think we as a board should really force ourselves to do this, a formal evaluation, and put it on paper how we feel. Because we're the ones making the decision, not the advisory board.
And the
We're
key
taking
is,
the recommendation,
when
and not the
it's
sunshine.
spoke to what we are seeing from, you know, our perspective as a FICSA board, you know, it's interacting, it's exactly how you're doing commission. I like those types of questions. I mean, you could rank them one through five, whatever it is. It's relatively straightforward. We're seeing, I like it.
They're not yours, they don't report to you, they're not your advisory board. So that you're just taking input from somebody out there, yes, you participate,
Correct.
but they're not your advisory board, so you're
Well, I
right,
think that
Lois,
started.
Lois did it right, if
Yeah.
you're gonna, I mean, this is what happens. You guys determine the raise and the salary, what are you basing it on? If you're not gonna
Attention.
evaluate.
The time is now 7:30 and the library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you have any items you'd like to check out, please bring it to the main desk before 8 p.m. Access to the book nook, bling cabinet, teen video games, community room, new car registration, and children's play area and activities will be closing in 15 minutes. The library does promptly close its doors at 8 p.m. and reopens tomorrow at noon. Thank you.
On what is in that evaluation, everybody signs it. Or votes it in, whatever, but
Didn't you,
one document.
didn't you guys discuss, when we were at the workshop, wasn't it discussed that the whole idea of part of the HR person would be to compile the information, right? What's wrong with them compiling before that meeting your information that you presented, yes, you sign off on it, and then they come in and they say, these are the areas, and you look at that and you decide your ultimate decisions based on.
You could do that.
I'm not gonna be here, I just hate dumping paperwork on.
No, you're gonna come back.
You can go back as a consultant.
I think Lois made a good point. We are the final, you know, stop, and we should be aware. If we don't wanna do it, we shouldn't be on board. If we're too lazy to do it. It's one time once a year, you're asking us to answer 7 questions or 8 questions, I think we can handle that.
If I may say something, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that, because if I'm gonna base my opinion on what I see just here at these 12 meetings, I don't think that's fair. I don't think we get enough information.
But that's all some of us use.
I understand that, but you're asking us to make an opinion on what goes on here. I know what we do with our, we struggle with this from day one, because we are a different group, all right? our group, we communicate very well at our meetings. We discuss everything, we get through things, we get done with our meetings, we are gone. Alright? It doesn't take 2 hours, it doesn't take 2 hours and 45 minutes for us to get through our meetings. But I would have somewhat of an idea, because Erica does sports. But I don't know we don't have shuffleboard, we don't have tennis, we don't have all the stuff she has. I don't know what she does, okay? All I can do is listen to the reports, listen to what people say about what's going on in here, and then when I got here, we had these discussions about the HR and how that went down a real bad rabbit hole, in my opinion. So to sit here and say that we should do a review of them, to me, is not fair to them, because even if I'd have to go out and, Rob and I, who was on the board before I was, we went to Palm Harbor's meetings. And to be quite honest, Rob had to grab my arm and hold me back, because I was about fed up with going to that meeting. Now, that's fine if that's the way they want to hold their meetings, I don't care. But we got thrown under the bus at their meeting, which I didn't like. So it was, I don't know, I just don't think I think we're going down a hole that does not need to be going down.
Here's the only problem though. At the end of the day, 8 people vote on their raise and their any bonus. So the question is this, what do you need to do that? Right? At the end of the day, you're gonna do it.
No, I get it.
So that's the problem. You're talking about what has been discussed forever, and everybody struggled with the same thing. Because people, like you all said, people don't wanna necessarily rely on the advisory board. People don't wanna necessarily rely on a HR person so it's whatever you all decide that you need, because you're going to vote at some point to raise and any bonus for these 4 people. So it's whatever you need.
Point on that. I mean, if you look at the quality of what the monthly output is, I can evaluate that. If Mark is never prepared, he gives half facts, he's late, he's giving us a 5-minute review and everyone else is giving us a 20-minute review, I can say there's not enough substantive information there. Can we provide more? I can evaluate that.
That's my point. They're different entities, and they may not have the same amount to report on. And it might be a whole different group.
No, I understand that, but if that fully meets the requirements for his job, then that's what you evaluate on. If I'm
Right, but if you just say that, if one person gives 20 minutes and somebody else gets 5, and you review on
It's
that,
the quality of what you're presenting.
okay, that's fine, that's not exactly what.
Boy, I'm in trouble.
It's the quality of what you're presenting, because again, there's some basic things that we present, financials, the director's report, etc. That information is about the same. Every director here thinks about the same time. At the commission meeting, it was a little bit different. Lois knocked it out of the park with all her statistics and stuff. I had goosebumps going on there. I said, my gosh, look what you did. You know, and some of the other, we just talked and some of them just, I'm not sure what is the best evaluation, but if I was evaluating the 4 directors that way, I'm gonna give you kudos. I'm gonna give you kudos because you went on, and Matthew did a pretty good job, and you did a pretty good job. But I'm looking at, but from you, just the presentation, the quality of that presentation, and the kind of that clear vision, and getting the chairman to say, do a capital campaign. I mean, my God, I had goosebumps for you. I mean, you knocked it out of the park, and that's up and beyond the call of duty from my perspective. I can evaluate that. You as a chairman, you are on this board of directors. You couldn't evaluate that?
I get that, but I just think that there's opportunities for the 4 directors to do more in the different positions, okay? And look, I've worked with Lois before here, all right? Help her getting some of these things done here and getting permits for the county, all right? So I know what she does, all right? And I appreciate that. We struggle as our board. We know how we run our board. We know how to get things done, right? And then and that's fine. I get what you're all saying. I get it. I just think it's a difficult position to put us in. And just from this. Now, if you want to, like you're saying, if we want to go out and do homework and we want to go watch tapes and Mark tells us what went on at the board meetings when he went to the county. He tells us what he's gonna do before he goes, so we know all that. All right? And he comes back and he says everything went well, we looked and it went well. All I have is Rob and Scott to go on from before.
Right.
And they basically tell me the same things and told me what to look for. And both of them and myself, we struggle with how to do our reviews and how to quantify, if you will, what Mark does versus what everybody else does. And we keep trying, and sometimes we feel like we're beating our head against the wall, quite honestly. And so I don't know.
But you're talking about the fundamental part of the problem, because all four entities are different.
Right.
And Mark is completely different than anybody else, because his is dealing with groups and dealing with just, making sure everything is okay for the groups to come in and do their thing, right?
Yes.
And I know that because my kids played at Eastland. And so it was completely different than doing anything in Palm Harbor.
All right.
And I agree with you. So again, this is the struggle that this board has had, because every time you try to make things uniform, which you're trying to do, there's just, some of it is impossible, because the entities are different.
Right.
So you're trying to get there as close as you can. It's never gonna be the same, because it's not, no one is, these four groups are not apples to apples, no matter what you do.
The neutrality of the four advisory board appointees, in that we can't vote on the financials for other groups, we're also tainted in some of the way we feel about the other directors. So I kind of agree that it's not fair for me to review Mark. If God forbid, if there's conflict between Erica and Paul Harbor Parks and Rec, and East Lake Rec, my review of Mark might be skewed. Not because of what he does here, but because of something that's underlying, and that wouldn't be fair. Same thing might happen with the libraries. If East Lake Library is doing something, Palm Harbor Library is not happy with it, or, I'm just making this up, okay? If there's something going on, then the representative that's here, although we're a fixer representative, it's hard to take that and set it aside. The only four people that are neutral on this group are the four county appointees that have no day-to-day, that have no input, have no knowledge of what they do. And that's why they're counting on the advisory boards reporting correctly. So, Dan, I understand where you're coming from. I do. I think there needs to be a review, and I think, I'd like to see those eight questions, those 7 questions, so presented to us. But maybe it isn't all 8 of us doing the review of them. Maybe it's only 4 bringing it back from the perspective of the county employees, and we all discuss it. I don't know, I'm just.
Well, building on that, it's a good point. So if I'm sitting here and looking at Lois's review, her advisory board's gonna say everything's great, and she had said at the meeting, everyone's gonna get a 5 anyway. But if Bill says, you know what, Lois is doing great in her, but every time we try to do a joint project with my library, Matthew's telling me this, and there's a dichotomy there that's not healthy. And so that's not gonna come out, because he's gonna do great, Matthew's gonna do great, Lois is gonna do great, and then we're like, oh, they're both doing great, but are they doing great from a fixer perspective? John's viewpoint of Lois's behavior is valuable to me. It's not gonna come out in the advisory. The advisory boards are tainted, I feel. They're very skewed and very biased, rightly so, but they're only gonna say good things, and I'm trying to express my desire to get other opinions.
And while I agree with you on that, but that's why I said at the very beginning, the 4 appointed directors should be the ones doing the review. Even though then, whatever you are a member of the advisory board, fair enough, whether they listen to you or not, that's an internal issue that's right that you gotta deal with. But we looked at that, we could look at that as going, Phil's gonna come in and say, yeah, the advisory board gave Erica glowing reviews. Phil's gonna give her glowing reviews. Well, now she's got 2 glowing reviews, and now everybody, the 4 directors are looking like, okay, great, now what? That's why the appointed people should be the ones doing it, because that's not gonna skew the number.
if that makes sense.
And there's one other really important aspect of that review process for us. I mean, if we're doing our performance correctly, we're identifying the objectives for next year. We're working with Lois, we're working with Marks, and what are we gonna try to accomplish next year? It's gonna be status quo, the business is gonna run itself, blah, 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 or we're gonna grow certain areas. We should have very quantitative objectives going forward. What are those objectives? And then at the end of the year, I'm gonna evaluate against those objectives. And us as a board member, we should be able to evaluate, those are concrete objectives. Did you accomplish what you said you were going to, yes or no? You know, if the goal was too aggressive, I get it. If we had to change direction, I get it. But again, if we didn't achieve anything we were doing, if we're just babysitting the business and managing it, it's okay, wonderful. We had 3 people come in, but I don't know if that's the right way to run our businesses. I mean, if I talk to Mark, what is your vision for the next year? What do you want to focus on?
Well, I can tell you what visions are, but there's a lot of roadblocks that are always, as far as it comes out to my area. Because I have to deal with the county keeping telling me, no, you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that.
But Mark, you're gonna put those on your self-evaluation. That, you see what I'm saying? So we're gonna get that data. So we'll quantify, going on what Bill says, we're gonna be able to quantify that on that data.
You don't get dings for that.
You're not gonna get dings for it,
That's what I want.
that's what we wanna see.
That's right.
But Dan, what you're asking, I'm backing into this, I mean, in a perfect fix-it world, we all would come to the meeting and we would discuss, we would share the comment, the review that you're asking for. What you're asking for is that we force ourselves to put it out there so we can look at it. In a perfect world, we would come prepared to discuss it.
At the November meeting.
Right, but we normally don't, we keep it.
I don't wanna necessarily say everything and take up all the meeting.
Yeah.
I can easily do, as you know. So I wanna get it out there and say, here's my opinion. And again, it's just data, we don't have to.
Well, hey, why don't we just bring those, I mean, that's what we're talking about, having the forum at the next meeting, let's bring
Compile
that.
the questions. That would be helpful.
I already
I could just send it and say, I think it makes sense. But also remember too, is all this is being compiled the week prior to the regular fixed board meeting in November.
Yes.
Cause we're compiling it all at the direct, what do you call it?
Workshop.
Well,
The direct, that was it.
But we decided to have a
Right.
separate, so when we come to the
Which makes
meeting,
sense.
we're already,
Yeah, the director's
we can hash
meeting
this
workshop.
out, that's the only topic we're gonna talk about.
Right.
There's
Right, nothing else, and then we just hash it out at
It's a
that
separate
point in time.
meeting,
But
it's
yeah,
not
get us the names, or the questions.
Yeah, and
Let's
it's the
say
same
what-
questions that are already on the advisory board, so we can do a comparison.
And there's nothing stopping any of the directors from watching the county commission meetings. You know,
Attention patrons,
Fine.
the time is now
if you
7:45
want
and the library will be
to
closing
go
in
back and get
15 minutes.
information, you can-
In approximately
I'm sure one of the directors
at this
will ask you,
time,
like, oh, this is
the
clip where we were,
Book Nook,
you know,
Blink Cabinet, public
Right.
computers, new card
Here's speaking on these
registration,
so that
team
information
video
is available
games,
if you can't
and
physically
children's
be
room
there.
play
Um,
activities have closed for the evening.
So we can
If you have
get
any books
that.
you'd like to check out, you can bring them up to the front desk. The
Hop
library
in
will
on
reopen tomorrow,
time
Thursday
and
at noon.
meet their
Thank you.
staff, kind of get a feel for how operations are going. The only thing that concerns me is that adds a lot of weight. If we're doing separate evaluations from each person, just that it adds a lot of weight to each individual fixed director's opinion. Whereas, you know, the advisory board, you have a lot of opinions on that one paper.
Yeah, I agree with that, cause like mine get buried, which is why I wanna take the 8 and combine them into one
It's still 8
unit.
today.
But yeah, you're right.
Cause I
But then
don't
again,
think
it
I
could be-
know enough, I mean, I don't think I know enough to really give an actual evaluation of each of the directors.
Well,
And
that's
I
what I
try to
was saying,
show
they
up,
should
I don't
be
think it's fair.
Different perspective. You're
Right.
not gonna ask,
Right.
you know.
We're not gonna use all the
But I can
questions out
weigh
here,
what
we're gonna
I'm
do different
seeing and
ones.
see if that is in alignment with what I've consistently seen and learned from the meetings and the limited time that I spend at their.
It's just another perspective.
Goals and objectives.
Getting an outside perspective, the perspective of the board members.
But remember, what you're gonna do is you're gonna have a document or documents, and you're gonna have to see how they work, because you've never done this. So you can tweak them, and you could say, hey, this really didn't work, but if we do this, like goals and objectives, maybe that's what we do, and compare them just on those things.
So it would be helpful if I table that and say, let's
let's bring it,
Because I have already done 7 questions.
I think that does lead into the 360.
And I'll send you my 4 or 5 questions that I did, because I did a simple one that we just filled out real time at the November meeting, you just turn it in. We're gonna vote right in then. I'm not saying that should be that simple, but I mean,
can we like, just one question that we're not talking about
what's that?
is whatever we fill out gonna be part of their review? Because I believe at the workshop, we said that we are going to separate accepting their reviews from the advisory committee from dealing with the raises. We were gonna make them separate. We weren't gonna put them together. So are these reviews we're talking about doing as board members, is that going to be part of their review, or is that gonna be consideration for their raises? I mean, there's 2 different things, because their reviews become part of their permanent record.
But this becomes a part of the record anyway, because the document created by a board member, when
Great
somebody
question.
looks at that, if you have a board member who doesn't feel comfortable, or they feel like I have to put something, then that carries as much weight, because it's a full piece of paper compared to the advisory board review. That's where I have an issue.
The
If
only
everybody
difference is how
comes
we
up with-
classify it.
Yeah.
Is it part of their review, or is it just in their personnel file? It's going to be there, one way or the other,
So
remember.
if the whole FICSA board came up with one document, and maybe it does take a longer workshop where there's an exchange of that, you know, the questions could be sent out in advance, people were prepared to discuss them, but you can't have that exchange of ideas until you're there in person anyway. So I would say that FICSA board should have one review that carries the weight from the FICSA board, not a million reviews that each are kind of the same as the advisory board review when someone's looking at it from the outside.
I think the concept is that there are however many reviews compiled then into one. So then there is only one official FICSA document coming out for each director, not individuals. The individuals are working tools to build that official document. But I agree, there only needs to be, yes, exactly, but again, as Andy said, how will they classify?
There should just be one ultimately.
Oh, absolutely, and I agree.
But remember this, even a draft is a public document.
Which is,
Anything you create is a public document.
Right.
and some people will probably feel more comfortable coming to the meeting, just creating that document together versus submitting something. So I think that option should be available to those who maybe can't quite put it into words, but then when they're sitting in a room of their peers can.
Right.
So I'm gonna rescind my motion.
You can come back.
I'll send you my vision for what it would look like.
I'll say,
Anyone
Why
else?
don't we not rescind it, why don't we just table it?
Because,
The idea is solid, we just gotta figure out what we're
I
doing.
think once you see the questions and how they're very
Exactly.
global.
Right.
Oh, I can answer that.
I'm gonna attack it the same.
Yeah.
Different questions, but the same.
Table it to next.
And I think this is how the whole thing evolved with the HR position, everything, this is all evolution, it's not
Right.
really revolution, and it could be, I mean, Phil's idea of just the 4 county people doing it, I mean, okay, maybe it's everyone but that entity's representative on the board, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here that, you know, will have a good end result, but I just, from my perspective, I have never been reviewed by my bosses. Okay, in 25 years, I've never been reviewed by my bosses, what do you think about it? Okay?
Jean never
Oh,
reviewed?
no, Jean reviewed me, no, I mean, as a director, I've never been reviewed by the FICSA board, so that's what I'm.
He was getting clarification.
Yeah, work is a broad term.
Okay, so we're tabling that one, everybody take time to think about it, and, you know, we'll kind of work through it, and
Take them off.
the next thing we have is a timetable for the reviews from the FICSA board. Since we moved our meeting, we're gonna do a workshop earlier, provided we agree on it, then when do we want for a timetable?
November 1st.
November 1st?
To get what?
To get the submissions from the advisory boards, because we need a hard, yeah.
It needs to be November 1st, they need to submit them to the HR coordinator to compile. And then provide it, or if we have it at the time, the FICSA administrative person
Somebody,
to pack it and send out to all the directors.
So we have
as a
advisory
separate
board
packet.
review reviews, we have the self-reviews, we have the FICSA board reviews, if you will. And the only thing, if we wanted to include each director would actually present their objectives and what they accomplished for the year. I don't know if that would be later or if that would be earlier in October. That would be the only other, the fourth thing I would think you could potentially talk to. And those 4-3, if you had all those, I mean, that's a pretty impactful.
So you want us to put a presentation as well as the reviews?
Well,
Well, the review is separate. Again, if you came to your board of directors, Mark, and if you had to do, what did you achieve last
No,
year?
I understand what you're saying, I just want clarification, is that what we want? Is that what we're
I
talking
think
about?
we had talked at the meeting, we had talked about the presentation you did for the county commission, bringing it, we didn't all see it, and we didn't get to ask questions, is to take that same presentation and show it to us at a meeting. As a
Does it need
jumping
to
off.
be at a meeting? Couldn't that
We
be
just said-
sent in advance?
Well,
Couldn't
that's
that
it.
be sent in advance?
Oh, yeah,
That's
we could just send it to us.
Instead of.
It's already done, we're not asking, I don't think we're asking them to do a second one.
Yeah.
No,
Take
I'd
the
like
one
to
you did,
redo.
look.
The advantage if you did it.
Well,
I like what you said, you would have an opportunity to ask questions in here.
Right, so we took the same thing, and we done sent.
I think we're getting off task. The question was, when do we want the
When-
advisory boards
exactly.
to provide?
That's the
November 1st.
Do you have a motion for that?
Yes, I'll make the
That
motion.
limits the advisory boards to the fiscal year ends on October 1st.
Mhm.
So they have only 30 days to.
No, October 30th.
No, September
I mean,
30th.
September 30th.
So they have 30 days to review.
But they've been with them for a year.
Right, exactly. They should be starting that
I think it's
process
reasonable for
in
the
August.
library to do that.
Uh,
I think it's reasonable for the library.
Yeah.
It's reasonable for everybody, I think.
Yeah, we have a motion, we have a motion that's not second.
One thing, please remember what Phil said, is that you gotta make sure that they do it on time. This is what we deal with every
I
year.
understand, that's what I'm saying, I'm making the motion that we require it by November 1st.
And what's the consequence if they don't?
Well, let's,
Who seconded?
yeah, second.
Fire the director.
No,
Fire
Do we like
fire
not
the
accept it,
liaison.
just like?
If we don't accept it, then the director.
Well, I think that's a separate-
And so the director's gonna be the one pushing.
Right.
Exactly.
Grow up. Hold on. There's no punishment. I mean, just,
I mean, it's just because people don't get it in on time.
but you don't, we have no avenue of punishing. I mean, the only person we would be
can't
punishing would be the
right,
Well,
director.
that's
the
who,
director.
gets the punishment, unfortunately.
But the
Since
director
21 years, I've been
doesn't,
punished about
If they're
20 of them,
supporting,
so.
if they're supporting that person,
That's
then they
true.
should do it.
but the director doesn't, the directors don't,
They don't do it.
they don't direct the advisory committees.
That is correct.
So-
So.
Right, which is the constant problem we're gonna have. But if we go say, hey, get them here by the November 1st, okay? That way we're not having delays like we've had in the past with Eric. And I'll fall on the sword because one of them was me, okay? I turned in one, but then it went crazy, but that's a whole other story. But that's the date we have to stick to, and then, but as the representatives of the advisory boards, you guys know what the date is.
And that's what I was gonna say,
We
isn't the
can, we can
purpose?
bash you here, where is it, why isn't it turned in? Blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at you, Bill, but it's only because, and I can look at Dan too, but you know,
I get it.
but you guys
I
are
don't
the
care, give me a
representative
date,
of that
I don't
advisory
care,
board.
give me a date.
Motion's on the table, it's
You
seconded,
tell me.
part of the comments, directors, and I'm your representative, okay? But directors, because I'm gonna tell your entire advisory board at your next meeting that your review is due November 1st. And make sure, I get it, okay? Make sure you are proactive in telling your whole advisory board to hold your president accountable and get it done. As much as anybody else, you know?
And Phil, I understand that, but from an employee standpoint, I have never in my 40 years of managing people have had to have my staff remind me to do their reviews. That's insulting. We work all year long expecting one year,
Fine.
one time to
If
get.
that, if, it doesn't matter. If this insults you for me to tell your advisory board, I apologize.
No, but what I'm saying is it should just, it happens every year.
Yeah, it should. It's
It's
just
not a
like, should we,
surprise.
how do we punish? We don't punish. We expect them to be adults.
But if
That's what we do, but
if
Erica gets buzzed.
the deadline has been set, and
They have one
if the
person to
deadline
review.
has been set
How
in
many do
years
you
past and they weren't
I
met,
have.
this whole argument where it never happens,
One
this is not
person.
true. Set the expectation and
Right.
do what it takes to get the damn thing in by November.
And I think the reminder that if the advisory board cannot do that task the way that we requested it, another support organization could meet the same need. We could restructure, that it could be restructured so that another support organization does meet that need. I had one question from when Lois said her bosses never gave her.
I meant since I was a director.
I know, so I'm just, but that's, I wanna hop on that scope creep conversation again of how much power does the FICSA board have? We're not really your bosses, there's the hiring, there's the firing, there's the reviews, but on your day-to-day, you are the boss of your organization, right? And we're just gathering the information and making decisions with that information that comes to us. But no one here is managing the directors.
No, I didn't mean by management, but as far as the determination of our raises and such, and the fact that the advisory board is just that, an advisory board, okay? I remember when my predecessor was here, okay? She used to be told by her advisory board, don't listen to the FICSA board, we're your bosses. And you can only answer to one master, and she.
We had a lot of debates about that. Actually.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I remember that.
So I think, I'm not talking about managing my day-to-day, they've never done that, FICS has never done that. But when it comes down to the hiring, firing, okay, reviewing, okay, of the job that we're doing, okay, yes, you take the recommendation of the advisory board, but you are really my bosses.
Well, we're responsible to make informed decisions and to go out and get that information if the information isn't coming.
We kind of broke out, we have a motion in a second on here to make the hard date November 1st for the advisory committees to submit their reviews.
Correct.
Any further discussion on the topic? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Can we maybe send out a reminder at the beginning of October, maybe from, no?
I just sent my advisory board an email right now.
No, I'm just saying, no,
November 1st.
Okay,
You'll
just
get
get
it, so will you.
Alright, so finish that.
Let the administrator do that.
Moving on to the director merit raises, bonuses, we talked about.
Attention,
Oh,
the time is now
sorry.
8 o'clock and the library is now closed. If there's any patrons still left in the building, please let us know as we are leaving for the night and our review alarm.
November 1st.
Yes. Second. I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we have two motions. One for the directors and one for the advisory. Okay. We further talked about setting a scale, which I don't think we have to do tonight, but we talked about it for the raises and a timetable to implement salary changes. I know we had half in one part of the year and half in another, and we talked about combining that by making everything happen in November. That was what was discussed at the workshop. Where do we wanna go with that?
Currently, the system is, we have the COLA automatic discussion is going to happen in October. That's already on the calendar.
Right.
So you're talking about a salary review,
Yeah, because
like the range.
right, because we had moved it, we were doing these reviews in January, which we're talking about getting them done in November at this point.
And I think you would do those at the workshop, right? You would review that salary range, because the cost of living is already done. Now you're looking at potential raises for the directors that what do we have?
Based on the review.
Based on the review.
That's actually something different. This has to do with what percentage, not above COLA, are we going to present to the advisory boards? Here is your
Yes.
increase, merit increase range.
Not salary range.
Correct, where is that's
That's
separate.
separate.
That's a separate line item down here. But what is the merit increase range
Merit increase.
we're going to be providing? That was your suggestion. And I thought it was great. We need to cap that.
Yes.
And we need to set that.
I think it needs to be out of the advisory board. I don't think they have any due diligence here. They're just doing performance.
Well,
The raise should be separate. That should be to the fixed board, myself personally.
Well, historically, it's always been the advisory board will come in.
That's always the fight in the battle. That's
Well,
why we do
exactly.
16% increase. That's why you take it away from the advisory board totally. You give it to the fixed board and say, what can we afford as a board?
We
What
can't
is the
afford
salary?
anything. They have the budgets, not us.
What is the range? What is the range?
That's what we're saying, is we're going to the advisory boards and the directors to say, okay, here is where we're looking at, don't go past 8%. Okay, don't make the recommendations past 8%. We have to set a ceiling
Okay.
on a recommendation
Okay, I
from,
understand what you're saying. If that's what you're saying.
yes,
I
it's
agree
the
with you.
recommendation from the advisory board to this board on what
I
the
agree with you.
merit increase should be.
I agree with you totally. Thank you for that. Once you said ceiling,
Yes.
Well, I think we've heard from the advisory boards year after year after year that we don't give them parameters. That's one of the
Exactly. And Dan made up the right point at the workshop, is we do need to set these parameters, and I think this is it, we have to set
Well, I
the
think if
ceiling.
we set a ceiling, but I think we should also set, like, they should give us reasons why that, they just say recommend this, but they don't enumerate reasons why that increase is due.
But
Should
I
they
thought
recommend anything?
But
We had criteria.
we had
I'm just
criteria,
curious,
I know when I was
should they be
president, I was here.
recommending?
It was
But
done
when
by
we
us.
get the review, it's not on there.
board rec has always.
But should they?
You're right, it wasn't physically written on the review.
So those of us who are not part of advisory committees, we don't hear it, we just see
No,
what the
no, but me as president, when I was president, I would be here. I know Erica's president, or you were here.
Well, actually, you're wrong a little bit, because in the paragraph at the end of the review, it
Okay.
explains the reasons why the advisory board is seeking an increase in salary or a bonus. And it stated, we gave specific criteria to the advisory boards that we as a board would consider raises based on increased amount of duties that are changing their job description and increasing what they're doing. That, you know, they're getting paid a salary they agreed to be paid to do a specific job. So unless their pay range, which was what we discussed in last, that they were below what their, whatever that term is, you know, they needed to be within the pay range, then we would increase it because of that. Or we would increase because they took on more duties, their job description changed, something like that. Because they did a good job and they got a outstanding review is not necessarily grounds to give a raise. It's maybe the grounds to give a bonus or but nobody likes the term bonus. So that it's maybe grounds to give them an attaboy and give them an extra PTO day or, I don't know, something like that. But to give a raise to their salary, county employees don't get raises, they don't. But then we're gonna get to the argument that we
We're
don't
not
have
counting
any
employees,
retirement
they
plans.
don't get the same benefits.
Right, they don't get the same benefits, so, but that's what we have to deal with.
But that's the
That's fine.
complaint of the advisory, every year the advisory committees come in and say, we don't have enough direction.
So
They
then
complain.
let's, like what Jenny suggested, and kind of building on it, why don't we just take that away from them?
That's
You say, you don't give us any recommendations on salary,
right.
bonus, anything.
That's right.
You just tell us how they did, and then this board has to decide.
Then we can just accept their review so much easier.
And I think long-term, some guidance from the HR person
Yes.
will be very helpful.
Because we shouldn't be changing job descriptions in between, just because I'm giving you more responsibilities and doing, the job description is the job, that's under other.
But
You know,
there's
if
nothing
I-
stopping the advisory board from saying in the review, we feel that, our director has taken on additional tasks and that we would like FICSA to consider.
Well, they should be going that to the HR department first, they should do a salary evaluation, they should come back statistically and say, this is what the
The
additional.
advisory board's not gonna do that.
No.
No, that's big business, this is government, we have to separate the two.
No,
But here's the thing,
you just can't.
everyone kind of touched on it, the advisory board recommends, right?
They recommend, they don't tell us, we're giving her this, we're giving him this. They recommend, we're the ones actually, guys, that have to vote on it. So we have the final say, but give them a cap, a ceiling of recommendation. Ultimately, Jenny, to your point, we make the decision on whether or not they're gonna get what they're gonna get. But don't go off base on the salary and everything else like that, because that's under new business and we have to discuss that on figuring out what the ranges are. But we have to give them a ceiling. We have to give them direction. As an advisory board president, I hated it, because I didn't know what to do.
Well, and when asking for that recommendation, the issue is every year, they all feel uncomfortable because somebody did a really good job asking for a lot and somebody didn't, and if that's taken out, and it's just that this is the money we're working with and this is how we're doing the raises, and we're weighing the reviews.
But we're giving them direction. We never have given them direction before. We never have. I've heard numbers in my time here, I've heard numbers from 3% to 12%. That's BS. We need to cap it, give them a ceiling, give us that recommendation that's realistic.
You know what's gonna happen though, I mean,
And yeah, they're gonna come to us with the
We're gonna
max.
come up with the maximum every time.
That's fine, and then, but we can chip away at that, but they have to quantify that in their comments. Number two, on the performance review summary, give us that information on why you want it to be there.
Well, the problem's been, like, basically, time I've been here 7 years, is if somebody recommends more, and then they wanna take back the review, rechange it, do it again, we've had.
We don't allow that, that has to stop.
It does have to stop.
That's November 1st is your
It's
deadline.
bonuses that happen, it's happened with bonuses, it's happened with salary raises, and then it becomes nasty, and everybody gets upset.
Right.
Because it becomes a comparison, oh, that person got more.
It falls back to what we were saying before, no direction has been given to the advisory boards.
And now we're getting direction.
You know, there's nothing that has stopped them from coming in and saying, we wanna give a 40% raise, you know? They were told they couldn't.
I'm just curious if we use the scale where everybody landed on their final review and just use that to determine any sort of raises.
But if everyone just does their job, is that,
Why?
There are
Because the
Right.
advisory boards
Right.
are gonna come with recommendations, right? And then people here are gonna feel uncomfortable not voting in whatever the advisory boards recommend. And so it's just gonna be an automatic raise to whatever the advisory board asks for,
It is.
probably.
Unless you do quartiles, unless you do something based on performance, there's gotta be something very subjective.
Not gonna happen.
That's not what happens.
It has happened, you know.
No, what happens is that people from different entities then start throwing things at each other, saying why this one should get this, and this one should get that, and this one does this, and then who doesn't get something, it gets nasty.
So removing the money from that, doesn't it make sense?
I mean, it does, I mean, 'cause with Gene, for example, going back a couple years ago, we were given a 3% window, that was the maximum raise we did, we came back and gave a 3% increase. What happened? Everyone else gave you 10% increases. And I'm sitting here on this, well, whatever it was, but I'm sitting back, literally everyone else got a higher raise than Gene got, and I'm sitting back just dumbfounded. This was the rules, guys, this was the top ceiling,
Right.
and no one followed the ceiling.
Well, but that's the thing, but now it's written in, here is what the direction is, and this is the ceiling.
And
You come to us with 10%, sorry, you don't see the ceiling.
I think that's a step forward.
Right. Well, a lot of what we're doing tonight are step forwards.
I'm just talking from a historical perspective.
Please.
I think the issue here is, first of all, you have 4 excellent directors, okay? So naturally, if you give a range, okay, every year,
They're gonna be the high side.
they're gonna be at the high side, number one. Number two, okay, there's another part here that is not being considered, okay? And I say, if you want to take away from the advisory board and your recommendations, do so. Because it is the most awful time of year, every year for the 4 of us. But there's another part you're not considering, okay? I now make an excellent salary, okay? If you say this is what it's going to be, then someone, okay, that started lower and was lower, okay, has no opportunity then for a salary adjustment, okay, because of the fact that, you're setting a range. There's that. There's okay, let's look forward now. I will be retiring within the next 2 to 3 years. When I retire, the person that comes in, are they gonna start at my salary? No, they'll probably start much lower, okay? What opportunities will they have other than the COLA and this little range that whatever you're going to decide on, okay? How are they gonna make that up? There is a myriad of issues here that have to be considered, and each case is different. I think the thing we have to look at is, yes, the COLA, and whatever you want to do as a merit, whatever, but it's got to be this much of a range, because if you say 2 to 8%, okay, all 4 of us are gonna get 8%, okay? So I think there's part of the problem, but you have to have, okay, the foresight to understand, okay, when I'm gone, okay, somebody else is gonna come in at a lower salary, okay? Do they stay at that lower salary? Okay, do they have an opportunity to get the bump to bring them up? Okay, because you talk about these 10% raises and these 12% raises. They weren't given arbitrarily. They were given to try to bring one of the 4 up to a level that they should have been at 3 years ago. Okay, so that is what, I mean, I remember years ago, Gene got a 12% raise. Okay, this was years ago, before many of you were even on this board. Andy remembers, right? And they approved it, okay?
And that's why I was
And
saying
you're
the
right, Lois, you're
HR
right.
person should look at
And
the
this is
salary
where
ranges for the
HR
work that's
comes
being
in.
done
Thank
every
you.
year,
And I think
not
you
just
have
for the
to,
ranges for the industry.
and I think you have to rely on an HR professional to come to you and say, this is what my recommendations are. I think they have to be a part of the discussion in terms of they know the industry, they can find the data and say, this is fair, okay? And as far as our recommendations from our advisory board, my chairman of my board, I thought did an excellent job presenting why he recommended my raise. He didn't just say, oh, we arbitrarily want to give her this a 6% raise. He went through and looked at all the data from the PPLC annual report, from all of the other directors of all the other libraries in the area that were the same population size or staff size as I had. So they did their due diligence. Okay, so I just want to clarify that it wasn't just some number they picked out of a hat. But I think there's a lot of issues here, and it's been going on for so long, and I'm so glad to see it addressed, but I just want to bring up certain points that, you know, have you know, input here that have an impact on when you make these decisions.
Well, we have the problem if the HR person is working for the 4 of you, and then they're recommending your raises.
No, I don't mean.
No, not the raises.
They don't recommend the raises.
What an
There's
adequate range would be.
what an adequate range
I
would
think
be.
that's important, because one of the things I was doing, I did that quartile type
Yeah.
pricing, based on where's my pay, if I'm the lowest, you know, the quartile, and you're in the highest quartile, even though your performance, we're the same performance, I may get a 10% increase, you may get a 6%
I
increase.
I saw that standard deviation and.
You know, because
distribution.
again.
I saw that, yeah, I see what he's doing there.
If I'm hiring somebody
Yup.
relatively young, and they're doing an outstanding performance, they should get a bigger increase, but relative, they're still much lower than.
Right,
what
because
you're
3% of a 6-figure and 3% of, 5-figure is gonna be a lot different.
Right, an HR professional should be able to at least frame that.
That's what I'm saying.
We tell what the rate is, 8%, and frame it, this is what's fair and equitable for the person that just
So
started.
we do it every time we do collective bargaining. You go out, you find out where everybody is.
Yes.
Right.
And you're here, you gotta get up here,
That's right.
and so you gotta adjust all the salaries. Same should be for them.
Mhm.
Absolutely correct.
And they go through that every day with their staffs.
Yeah.
Trying to do what they
Right.
do to keep
Exactly.
good people.
Exactly.
To attract.
When we came out in 2007 and got to 2012, there were staff, 4 years, we didn't get a raise. None of the staff got a raise, we didn't get a raise, so now we're at 2011 trying to catch up. So, is that gonna happen again? I hope not, but
You're right. That's
those
the
are all
problem.
things that we have to consider.
But the review and the money are 2 separate things.
Right.
And the money needs to have a better paper trail on it. And it needs to have, that's where more robust documentation would be helpful. How did these numbers occur? What is that information on the industry for each of these individuals, where they are, just all of that information. An HR person would provide, whether or not that comes from the outside for right now, for this year, but I think it's only fair to the directors to continuously be seeking that information. And then this board says, this is what we can afford to do right now, with all the information, makes the decisions on what.
I mean, for what it's worth, that's your job, you're responsible for financial, you know, and so it would make sense to me that you guys are responsible to put a number to what the review says, not the advisory board.
And on our side, we have the budget that we have to balance, okay? And our biggest part is our personnel line, okay? And I mean, I don't wanna give myself this huge raise and I'm trying to struggle to help keep the good staff that I have by giving them.
Well, there's been times when you've done it, when you haven't given yourself raises, for that very reason.
But I think even taking a recommendation from the advisory boards is problematic.
Yep.
I wouldn't want a recommendation of at all, I would pull it completely out.
That's what's caused all the problems.
That is what's.
I mean, I, from my perspective, it has.
You only,
Advisory committees, I won't be here, but.
I agree with you on that, Tony, because again, that's where all the.
You know, since you-
Having said all that, I also, the November date seems to be a problem. I think it should be earlier, because budgets are October first, right? And we know what we're gonna have for next September third. So what's November?
Well, technically, budgets are,
Yeah, we've already
already
prepared.
done.
Our budgets will be presented to our advisory boards in July. And
That's
the board in August.
Why, where does the November date come from? It seems late in the process.
Just after the fiscal year, after the.
So that they can evaluate our performance during that.
And Ron, I've
previous
always
fiscal year.
said that, it's a shot in the dark, we just project.
Yeah.
5% overall our entire personnel budget to hope that, you know, it
But when I saw it in the preparation for the meeting, I
It's a guess to the best.
I mean, I
It
understand.
should really be done in April, so you can make it part of the budget.
Exactly. That's the kind of point I'm trying to make. So let's think about that, but not do anything about it today.
Not this year.
it's almost tomorrow.
That's another
Well,
thing.
I think I personally feel like we should just eliminate first financial discussion from advisory six. Just give them no guidance, just say review,
Just
and then
And then the
this
fiscal
board
board
has to
makes
come
a
up.
decision.
Then I'll make a motion that we remove the financial increase from the advisory board's recommendation.
Right now.
Jenny's all
we
excited.
have- I don't recollect where we say what is your recommendation.
It's just included.
It's just included, but now the direction is going back.
Direction is, we
This
don't
is,
want
we don't want no more,
We not, you can say what you want, but do yourself.
exactly.
Knock it out, don't read it,
Right,
it's not.
They can still do it though.
Yeah, need to perform.
Right,
You won't consider it.
We
It
won't
won't be
consider it.
it
considered.
won't be considered in our
You
decision.
can just explain that, all salary modifications, raises, or whatever will only be considered by PHCSA.
As a result of
And
the
again, I
submitted
think that's
reports.
one of the issues.
Yeah, and the board, there's only 5 people that vote on that.
Right, it's only
So,
the four appointed in
it's
the
really up
advisory
to
board.
that. It's appointed, the advisory board appointee to really drive the narrative.
Correct.
On behalf of the advisory board.
Right.
Okay,
That's what I would say.
But
we
the
have a
other three
motion.
still can comment.
Of course.
We have a motion and a second, we still discussing, or are we deciding? Is there more discussion on whether this needs to be, or we're gonna vote on it?
Vote.
Okay, all those in favor of eliminating salary recommendations from the advisory review, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
You can go away.
I know, I'm so happy.
She's
Okay.
accomplished it.
Okay, we don't have to worry about the scale, because we put it in our own hands, okay. So, timetable to implement salary changes, are we going to do them all in November?
And this is not salary ranges, but this is the
Salary
merit
changes.
merit increase.
Increase, just wait there, because they've been scattered.
I think you have to have it done by December. Are they still January first?
That's the question.
That's
That's
what.
what-
That's what you guys have
The
to
twenty-fourth
decide.
of January first, and everything has to be approved in the December meeting, you go into January first. That's all I'm just pulling on.
I would say that it would be January first, but we decided all at the November meeting, it's just.
Takes
It's
effect.
gonna start
Not the
January
public,
first.
not.
At the public meeting, no, at the public
At
meeting.
this meeting in November, we have this discussion, or we have a separate meeting to talk about
this specific
We
issue.
have the workshop.
Well, we have the workshop, they haven't finalized.
You can't vote it.
But we can't vote, but we have to have public meeting, right, we still have to do the workshop. At the public meeting, we will vote, and then the raises will go into effect January 1.
Yeah, they're both, they're both.
So that's good, so if they want
The
to.
December meeting, we voted it.
I still think
No, we've already done it.
August
The
or
workshop.
September would be better than November.
The workshop, and then the following Wednesday, we have our
Move
regular
this
meeting.
question, just drag it out.
That's, I'm sorry, again, I thought, yeah.
But it buys you time.
Just in case.
It has to be done by December.
Yeah.
So if it isn't hashed out in the 7-hour meeting in November.
Workshop,
We can.
in the workshop, because there's a
The
workshop.
meeting should go good.
The meeting will go quick, the workshop will take much longer. So whoever has the workshop,
6.5.
cater dinner, please. I want to put Parmesan.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Let's see our,
so everything's gonna take, so, did we have a motion? Did we get a motion? Did we get a motion on the table about this?
We have the reviews on November 1st. And
Right.
it's up to us to review those and come prepared to that workshop
Right,
to discuss
November
salary.
14th.
which is November 14th.
Well, we haven't got there yet.
Oh, I have it.
That
Well,
seems.
we're
It's natural progression.
It's a natural progression, yeah.
Correct.
So,
Why don't you just look that up? So then you'll know when you did.
Well, we already set the date.
well, we had a vote on it, so,
Oh, I see.
Oh,
That's okay.
well, I think it's coming up, but,
We could all put it in the same motion. And say,
Good.
we will
good.
do it all. Crap.
Go ahead, Bill, wait.
So, okay, so I move that we have a
Director
review workshop on November 14th, where we will have to do two things then. So we will prepare the reviews for the directors, yes? Finalize the reviews for the directors
Finalize, yeah.
and propose any wage modifications.
You will discuss every wage.
Discuss, propose, I said propose. You can propose, you can't vote.
Yeah,
Discuss.
proposed is usually everybody act. Right.
Discuss
Yes.
and prepare for presentation
And final motion that they're reviewing.
in triplicate.
Second.
We got it?
Since there's outside, this is the discussion part, right?
Yeah.
There's outside HR right now. Do we wanna start the process of getting input on the director positions, where they are within the industry? Do we wanna set the standard of doing that this year?
That's separate, that's new business, that's the next thing.
Okay, well, I know, I'm just saying,
Let's
like,
start-
so then talking about that workshop, is that something that needs to happen before then?
We talked about,
I've already
Nice
moved,
if it
I've already moved one thing out of order, she can't handle more than one.
Okay.
I know, we're gonna keep it
Okay.
in order.
Well, do we
I should
need
have closed
any
my
additional?
computer.
Would we have enough information
Sorry, I
to
thought we
make
were
that
at the end of
decision?
it.
What else
You were,
would we
but
need
you
to know?
skipped, that's fine.
Probably the stuff under the
The only,
salary ranges.
no, I think the range is.
But if we think forward, we should have that next year, so this first year might be
Yes.
a blind discussion. Is there anything else to Jenny's point that we can have in advance of that, an HR opinion?
I mean, we have the information that you've given us.
I think HR should hopefully come up with some quantifiable ranges that make sense based on what the industry are and what other people are paying. That's kind of what the range is. Now, I would hope that they would present that back to the PHCSA board at that, into that session, will come armed with that information and say, this is kind of the ranges that we're dealing with.
Every year.
We already
Remember,
have ranges.
remember any information you get, they can send that to you in advance.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's just information, so you can have that documentation as soon as possible.
And I mean ranges, I'm in increases itself.
We have the,
Bonuses,
we
whatever
have
you
the
wanna
annual
call it.
statistical report from PPLC that gives every library director's salary,
Yeah.
staff, building size.
And
And
that's a foundational
And when does that come out?
I have the 2023 2022, 2023.
Do we have the equivalent from Parks and Rec side?
I think she said they do have
I
something.
think there's a state, it's not
State.
county though.
It's better than nothing.
There's nothing wrong with it, sending out that information, even.
That's what it was alluded to when he did my review.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that, so that the board members have that.
I don't think that motion's still on the table. I don't think that changes the motion
No.
in itself. It's something that we can
This is a
continue to
side
ask for, and continue to get more
Updated,
information and
right.
update information, so I think you continue with the motion as stated.
So we pick the date and we're gonna finalize the
The
reviews
date and the topics,
and the topics. Yes,
and those are the only topics to be discussed.
yes, okay, any other discussion on this motion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, that took care of that. Okay, now we're under new business. Outsourcing of salary ranges for directors, we said, talking about doing it biannually instead of annually, because it would be a cost factor. Where it would be, unbiased outside source providing those.
We already have the range pegged to inflation.
Mhm.
So really it would be something dramatic happens in the industry, and I can see going every 3 years on that, but again, I don't know anything about this stuff.
The cost is less than usually around $2,500 to do the analysis, the inflation analysis. That's why it was mentioned that every 2 years, whatever, 3 years has time to.
Theoretically, we just set the ranges this year.
No, not this year, was it 3 year, 23?
But where was that information extrapolated?
Yeah, where did that information
So I would not count that as definitive. Nobody knows, I've asked that question.
Never, yeah, we don't know what she pays.
What it was quantified by.
No.
Between the outside resources and the new HR person, I think that's when we wanna do it, consider it for next year. And then they hopefully can make a recommendation, do you do it annually based on inflation, based on whatever? I mean, it could be every 3 years to your point,
I think it's part of the HR
it
person's
is.
role to look at the salary ranges and look at the individual directors, where they are in their career, all those things, and kind of do a review of that, and then come with a recommendation each year of whether or not to seek outside support for that. But it should be looked at and reviewed every single year.
So we can almost make, I guess if we wanted to codify this, we could say, let's make a motion that future HR person does a report on salary range every January.
I agree.
Okay.
January.
Yeah, that's a good.
Did you make the motion?
I just made that motion.
Second.
Yeah.
This year.
I want to clarify.
You should let Ginny have that one, she needs one.
She's
already had
but whatever.
Okay, so,
But that's gonna assume.
okay, so this year we wouldn't
Thanks,
change,
Jen.
it would start, we'd have this on January.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we had a holiday and bereavement pay for part-time employees.
No.
Lois had sent out information, it was sent in the packet.
Well, I didn't see that, I just saw the leave without pay.
I only saw Reaper.
Okay, we,
I missed that one, I didn't get that in the packet.
I'm sorry.
Did I not?
All we got in the packet was just the leave without pay.
Do you want me to make copies?
The leave without pay is in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but there was the
Holiday
part-time,
and
holiday
bereavement
Oh,
bereavement,
no,
part-time.
our employee handbook, and the board directors have discussed this, okay, industry-wide, okay, part-timers traditionally get, if a company is closed, okay, county, I don't know, county employees, okay, but industry-wise, okay, part-timers get 4 hours holiday pay, full-timers get 8 hours holiday pay. In FICSA, it's only been the full-timers, okay? Part-timers get nothing, very little, okay? And, as it is, they don't get paid a lot for the most part, they don't have a lot of benefits. So what we're asking is, it is minimal additional cost on our personnel line, but to us, it's the right thing to do. The 4 hours holiday pay, okay, they just have the day off, they don't get a holiday pay. So we're asking for 4 hours for that. And bereavement, I think that's just okay, a compassion thing, okay, we're asking that they are allowed to get up to 4 days bereavement, the same as the full-timers, and they would get 4 hours of bereavement pay as opposed to the full-timers get. It's just an extension of what's already in the handbook as far as holiday pay and bereavement.
So for the part-timers,
Yes.
is there a way to quantify who gets that 4 hours? Like if you have somebody who works 1 or 2 hours once in a blue moon, do they have?
No, that's a
to
casual
work than that?
employee, no.
Yeah, we have distinctions
We
like
have
all the
distinctions,
time.
they would be working a minimum of 20 hours.
Okay, perfect, yes.
Yes.
All,
Okay,
Well,
alright, that was,
that-
too.
The classifications are regularly, like, so for example, I have night staff that works the desk. They may not work 20 hours a week, but they have a regular schedule. They
Yeah.
appear
Right,
regularly.
right.
They're considered regular part-time. People that are on call or like my summer camp
casual,
staff are all
yeah.
casual, they don't earn any
Okay.
benefits. So I would say anyone that's currently part-time accruing their teeny tiny itsy bitsy part of PTO that they get from us would be eligible for these added benefits.
Okay, we here, we're not overs. Come on.
You have,
So what do you want?
is it in your budget? Can you absorb it in your
Yeah.
budget?
This is for all.
For all.
It's for all 4
All four.
entities for part-timers.
Okay, so we have,
Mark,
All
you
got
really
the
think
same
we're
verbiage.
I was waiting for that.
well, what?
The handbook is the same, yes, Bill, but like, we don't have anything in our handbook currently.
So you're gonna grant on the same
Correct.
verbiage as your handbook, so I got you, except Mark.
We have to update.
No, I think it goes in the
Updates.
handbook.
No, I
It will go
needs
in
to
the
be
handbook.
because he may have a staff next year.
Because we all have the same, we all have the same employee
Make the
handbook.
motion.
Okay, I move that
We extend
what Lois is about to
holiday
say
pay and bereavement to part-timers
at half the rate.
at the half rate.
at half.
And
I
Lois
I
will send
lost what you were
Shelby
saying.
an email with that information.
Shelby has that information and apologizes very much for not getting it out to everybody. It should have been in your packet.
And I'll second that motion.
I know.
Thank you.
And I apologize to our secretary, but it falls on you to get the motion worded.
Yes, I will get the motion worded, as long as it's being recorded properly, I will be able to.
Which is the intent is the motion is to.
And it's in the video, Phil going like
Is to
this.
give this to,
And putting his head down.
and the intent is to give this to the part-time employees.
Yes,
Okay,
We just.
Regular part-time
The
employees.
right things to, yes.
That's important verbiage, regular part-time.
Yes.
regular part-time.
And that is also defined in the handbook already,
And it's
what a part-timer
Holiday and
is.
bereavement pay and
Mhm.
okay,
After
after rate.
Yes,
Seconded
we thank you,
by Cobra.
and the part-timers will thank you. And we will make this effective October 1st.
Oh,
Next fiscal year.
okay,
Yes.
next fiscal year.
That's what I had put in the original request.
That makes
So amend the motion to be effective October first.
I amend the motion to be effective October 1st.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, leave without pay policy.
This is often an informal type of thing, usually, again, extended to the part-timers. But there is no policy in place, formal policy. I've checked with other libraries, many of them have an informal policy, some have no policy, some have a formal policy. But I think because there have been several situations where people who are part-timers do not get to accrue PTO or voting holidays at the same rate as full-timers, many times have come to us and say, you know, I have a family reunion, my daughter is having a baby, and I'm gonna be there for 2 weeks or whatever. You know, we grant it, okay, but I felt that it was necessary to have a formal policy to A, prevent abuse, okay, so that we have a clear parameters, and B, so that we can clearly define, you know, what is permitted, what is not. And sometimes it's a case-by-case basis, but at least we have parameters in place so that we can't be accused of favoritism. You let that person go, but you didn't let this person take time off. So I created a policy based on others that I had found online as well as from other libraries. I sent them to Andy for approval, and he felt that yes, that this was all legally sound and it would be all right, but again, it is a policy that I feel needs to be added, okay, to our policies as a way of protecting ourselves and a way as providing a clear understanding to our part-timers what is permitted, what is not, and it gives us the ability to, you know, look at things on a case-by-case basis, but have guidelines in place.
So is this for,
The other entities are welcome to adapt it if they feel it's necessary. It may not be something that is necessary, but I felt we needed it. I presented it to my advisory board for approval, which they did.
Is this specifically for part-time employees or any employee?
It could be anybody. Now, remember, there are other things in place. There's family medical leave.
I was about to ask that
There's
because
short-term
doesn't this kind of
disability.
violate that with the FMLA side? Should it be specific to part-time? Because some of the wording here is like you're limiting one calendar year of 14 days maximum, which would violate FMLA.
Right, we would no, FMLA would trump any of this. Somebody-
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that.
if somebody has to go out on FMLA and they're qualified to go out, that would trump this policy.
Okay.
Should it be stated in there somewhere
We like to trick them. No. Hey, if you didn't ask. No, we should probably clarify.
Yeah.
All right, I can add that if you approve the policy, I can include it as a.
Well, let's,
FMLA.
I would,
Yes.
but why would we not put this in the fixed handbook and make it across the board?
I agree with you, but I don't wanna be presumptuous and say, you have to do what I'm doing,
I mean,
I
but,
think it's a fair policy, and that's why I wanted to run it by our attorney to make sure that it was.
would we want an entity doing something different other than the others?
That opens up a.
That opens up a can, to me, it would open up a can of worms, I think.
And I thought, did you guys look at this?
We looked at it.
Yeah, I just sent it
you're
to
okay.
them, I sent it to Shelby and.
Yeah, no, they were all okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was being adopted that way.
Yeah, we just have to change the verbiage from library.
From library employees.
Yeah, let's go on the
Okay, so
library
you're
and
fine with
call
it
it-
as it is.
Right.
You're fine with this though.
Yeah, because it gives it, exceptions may be made for medical,
Yes.
ultimately,
And
the
it's
director's
ultimately the director.
gonna have the,
Exactly.
and situations for a 16-year-old high school young person's gonna be a little different than
Right.
a 40-year-old that's having their first child, out of state somewhere.
Well, and I mean, what happens if somebody, like, let's say you have a student working for you and they take a semester abroad or something, that they're coming back, do you have to fire them and then rehire them?
Yeah,
when they
that
come
would
back?
not be a leave without pay situation.
No, we put them on a leave of absence, that's what we've done historically, like the summer camp counselors that come around year round, we don't terminate them out of payroll, we just put them on a leave of absence.
Okay.
And I think that would fall underneath something else.
So I think that would have to be clarified because someone might misread this and think, oh, I can't be gone for more than 2 weeks,
Well, we would hope that they would go to the director and work all this out. I mean, it's-
Yeah, I've never had anybody
Right.
take time off without pay,
Right.
without talking to their supervisor, or it never even gets to me,
Right.
Lois, going on what John was whispering in my ear over here.
There's no way to.
Yeah, there is, there's a lot of whispering. But it's being recorded, right?
Being recorded right here.
So, although is this?
Yes?
Don't touch,
Okay.
leave Alexa alone.
So, the notes that we've given, the changes, the additions, why don't we just clean it up? Get rid of library director, put NT director, clean it up, bring it back to us,
Right.
and we'll vote on it
You
as
want,
well.
so we will just table it until next.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's table it.
unless this is causing you a problem, I mean.
No.
Okay, let's.
No, there were
Yeah.
several.
Because we want to address the FMLA
I'm
issues
still-
and everything
let's-
else.
let's-
Let's clean it up before
No,
we
we're
vote.
still dealing with this informally. That doesn't change. I would still case by case. I don't need this piece of paper.
None of us have a problem, I mean, I
We
don't
don't have a
think
problem.
games have a problem
So,
with
no.
whatever
We just
happens.
want to clean it up, we don't want to vote on something that's not clean.
Phil, are you making a motion to table?
I make a motion to table. I didn't
No
know,
motion.
there's no motion.
Well, you could make a motion to table the issue.
It's a recommendation.
I make a
Okay.
motion to table the issue,
That's fine.
Andy.
Second.
Second.
Because there's no discussion after that second. You just vote.
All in favor?
So I will resubmit the leave without pay
Aye for
policy
table.
Okay.
for the next meeting and have a revision so that it's all fixed in accordance. Yeah, no problem.
Hey, this is just, this is a meeting,
Alright.
this is.
Yeah, this is right.
That's nothing to do with it.
Whatever you approve, yeah, because it doesn't
It's
affect
more
pay.
policy than.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to clarify.
Well, you're gonna have to
have your report, please?
Okay, it says that there's a piece of evidence, which I didn't submit, but I will follow up. Here are the three things that I spent a good bit of time on this last month. The policies and procedure collection process, with a lot of help from Bill. I've begun a framework for what the work will look like. And after conversations and help from Dan and James from the East Lake Library group, and a big data dump from Denver, which I have all the motions made during meetings for the last 5 years. We're processing those, and when the board has said this is going to be our policy going forward, that'll be in there. And we just need to make sure that we have a process afterwards to update it when the board changes its decision. And we're almost ready. I've been looking at the advisory boards and the input they offer to fix up collective bylaws from all the advisory boards and some of the other entities or groups like Friends of the Library. They're pretty much similar but not identical, and so far they all seem to be able to serve the needs of their entity without any problem for fixing. One thread I followed includes how each entity's advisory board members and representatives to the FICSA board are chosen. How do you get on the advisory board, and how does the advisory, or how does the entity send people up to be on the FICSA board? And there's some difference in that. And then like I said, I did some work with the ad hoc committee. Ron Schultz and I were offline to talk about all this, and so I supported what the committee came up with without any help from me. And I continue to work on this right now. And I'll put all that in writing and send it off to the board. And the whole mailing list.
When you say you're gonna put it in, like you're gonna put the findings in?
Well, I'm gonna do this report a little fleshed out and send it right now, and then ultimately, each of those three things, it'll be something that'll need to come to the board to say, here's what I found, here's what I think we should do. I think there will be some action that will be recommended, and since Bill reminded me at my first meeting, I don't set policy, I'm just gonna suggest that the board might wanna look at some things. And then the board can decide whether it needs it, wants it, or not. But I think it'll, if I see a big fault with the FICSA board, and I do occasionally, it is that we don't really have a process that looks the same month to month to month to month. And it's hard to follow for somebody who didn't even know FICSA existed 18 months ago. So I'm just trying to put together some stuff that'll help the public, especially, understand what we're doing and have a lot more confidence in our processes. And by the way, I think stuff that happened tonight is a huge step in the right direction. I like the thoughtfulness that has gone into the last couple of years. Not that anybody.
I kind of want to set a date on getting this done, so you have an end goal. I push for getting the September meeting, we have this data, so we have that going into, I don't know if that's reasonable.
Yes.
Sounds good, right before we start, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So our next meeting will be July 17th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Palm Harbor Parks and Rec.
At Harbor Hall.
At Harbor Hall. Make sure
It's summertime.
Oh, yeah. Make sure I write it down. Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I just want, I'm sorry.
She said to stay on.
You know
She
it's
did
your
that
last meeting,
time.
but still.
Since it is my last meeting.
Okay.
And I don't intend to be at that meeting. Hopefully there will be a new person at that meeting. I'm assuming I continue doing what I'm doing up until there's a person
To
to
replace
replace
you,
me.
that is correct.
Okay, and then I'll make myself available for whoever goes to the treasurer for us to communicate. I'll make sure Shelby has my contact information, because I think we were gonna talk about it next meeting, right?
Yes.
Dan is,
Well,
Well, Dan's gonna find out from his
Dan's
client.
gonna find out, and I will communicate.
Okay.
Is it?
Sure, yeah, so I'll be available for that, but I just wanted to clarify that before leaving the room, that I'm gonna keep my FICSA email for now until the next meeting.
Yeah.
So everybody's
Until
cool
somebody
with that,
replaces.
and all, as soon as someone replaces me, it'll be gone. Y'all can come, be my friend, visit me in West Virginia, all the things.
Okay.
Okay,
Is
thank
it
you.
written in the bylaws or in the charter of FICSA that the treasurer be on the board for 1 year?
We,
I thought it was just
we
the
adopted that.
chairperson.
We adopted that.
I wanna, because if not,
I thought it was the chairman.
don't be a good dummy to do it. Okay, that's fine.
One director must be on the draft.
You know the chair, the chair.
The chair, yeah.
I thought there was somebody that said the committee was the secretary or whatever, I thought it was 1 year, but maybe I'm confusing with the
Each of the officers will be elected and appointed annually by the board of officers. Each officer remain in office. It does say each officer will remain in office until its such officer is elected.
Oh, you can't leave.
Such election will take place The chairman shall have been a member of the board of directors for at least 1 year prior to being elected chairman. The treasurer shall have custody, it doesn't say it.
Yeah, just the chair.
Just the chairman.
So.
And I'll second that motion. How's that? Thank you, Dan.
Mention it.
There's a reason why I asked that question.
You've been here too long and you decided to.
So we have a motion on the table, guys. We have a motion on the table, seconded, that John will take Jen's place as treasurer. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for being the next treasurer.
Motion
Now,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye. Out of here.
Andy, would you like me to send you the revised legal policy to issue